I'll tell you what, I'm in a weird spot. Part of me wants to quit doing this. A big part of me. It hurts. I'm next and useless the whole day. Like I gotta just sort of lay around. I'm exhausted afterward. I'm in pain afterward. Even more so. I mean, I'm making myself a target. And that's fucking stupid. Making myself a target of the craziest, most lawless, most least held accountable, most powerful group in the world. They've taken away any chance of a career. Success. They're never going to let this feed go any further than it does. Like, I'm not going to get anything out of this other than negativity. And yet, it's like, how do you stop? How do you stop fighting for what's right? It's right. It's the right thing to do. It's what I always tell my kids. It doesn't matter if it benefits you. If it's the right thing to do, you do it. So how do you stop? My goal isn't even like a personal one. I mean, my vendetta or whatever. My goal is truth. I just want the truth. I just want to know things, and I just want to be the smartest guy in the room. And I just want everybody to live a good, happy, healthy, safe life. For selfish reasons. I want everyone in the world to live the happiest, healthiest, safest lives they can live, so that me and my family live the happiest, healthiest, safest life we can live. Because as long as there's inequity, as long as there's inequality, as long as there's all this, like, we're all in danger. As long as people are struggling, we're all in danger. Necessity is the foundation of most crime. Someone needs something. So they steal, so they rob, Sure, there are the other sides of things where the people have the compulsion to do something awful, like rape, murder, shit like that, but most crime is based on an impulse and necessity. Karen, what's going on? Just struggling, I'm struggling with, what am I doing? Personally, I think TBG makes some really great music. And I think, if anything, we could have a Kenny G style audience, a niche audience like that. But that'll never happen. They'll never let me do that. They'll never let me have any sort of success because of what I do. But again, I just don't know how to do that thing where you stop, where you're like, okay, I'm going to be this guy who looks for truth and justice and righteousness and all that. And then I'm going to get to Christianity and I'm just going to stop. I'm going to turn a blind eye to everything that happens. I'm going to I don't even know how to shut off the brain. How do you shut off the brain from saying, this is fucking stupid? It has been pretty intense of late. Yeah, it definitely is. It's crazy. Especially when you see what's happening like in the world. When you see what Israel is capable of doing, all over the place. They could touch me, no problem. Sending some agent to my house to do this and then jumps on a plane and goes back to Israel. They could easily do that. I like to think they keep me around just so they could keep an eye on things, so they can stay abreast of the situation. Remember, nobody, not nobody, you still probably haven't heard anyone talk about it. Maybe you have, but you probably haven't heard anyone else talk about Team Jorge. I finally saw a video somebody made about it, one of the Israel was bad guy truther pages, finally made a video encouraging people to look into Team Jorge. They need their intel, exactly. But as far as the average person has no idea what Team Jorge is, and you should. All of the internet sort of conspiracies, the idea that shadow banning and troll accounts and troll farms and manipulating elections, manipulating people's opinions, covertly manipulating public opinion. This is all very, very real. And I know that there's I know there's a portion of the population that has at least heard the term Team Jorge because they've been on my feed. So, I know that's an important step. People need to know that. And if nobody else is talking about it, well, somebody has to. That would be the only other dude I've ever heard mentioned them. I don't know who you mentioned, who the other dude is, but that didn't show up. What I see, they need their intel, and then that would be the only other dude I've ever heard mentioned it. So whoever you mentioned didn't come through. I always suggest in those cases using numbers for vowels so they don't. So whoever you're trying to promote. Oh, that's a huge cricket. The dude you mentioned. I don't know who else I mentioned. I don't remember who else I mentioned. Sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about the video that I saw? The video was a female, so you said there was one other dude mentioned Team Jorge. I don't know any other dude that mentioned Team Jorge. Will, good morning. Like I said, there was a video that I just saw a week ago on Instagram, and I shared it on my Facebook page. But that's it. And Team Jorge is this huge smoking gun. It really is It's that missing piece. It's that thing that everyone talks about but doesn't realize actually exists. Like, we all know that if you talk bad about Israel or the Jays, then your feed will get inundated. Jake Shields talks about it all the time. Belch. Jake Shields in the Fight Back podcast, which I highly suggest you go sub and tell him this guy sent you. It's strange to me how certain people are allowed to be that guy. And it's explainable. You know, there has to be a Jake Shields. There has to be a Joe Rogan. There has to be this other side, or else we would be like, hey, how come there's no other side of this? So they give us the person, or they allow that person to you know, to excel, to succeed, knowing that they're never going to say. But Jake Shields is, I'm pretty sure Jake Shields believes in God. So that's, if you believe in God, that's always a plus. Because they know that if you believe in God, they have their hooks in at the very least, you know, but down to your core too. Is it Sunday? Sunday morning, asshole. But see, that's just it. I can't do that. I can't just enjoy my Sunday and not think about it. I don't know how to do that. That's the part that's the most difficult part for me. That was the part that was the difficult part for me in school. You know, I get in trouble all the time because a teacher would be yelling at another kid, or a teacher would say something false or whatever, and I'd point it out. Or I'd step in, hey, you can't say that, you can't do that. And my mom would always be like, why are you always getting yourself in trouble for other people? They don't care about you. And she was right. Why does it say subs aren't real? Because submarines aren't real. Do you guys look up the My Lunch Break channel and be like, dude, this guy isn't on his lunch break. What the fuck? I don't see anything that has to do with lunch anywhere. Oh, this guy works on it. We have the classic submariner who is here. You know, he works on a submarine, but he's here today. It's 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday, and he's like, I gotta find submarine feeds on YouTube. I can confirm they're, THERE, not real. Not every single person. I don't know what you mean. My Lunch Break. I mean, My Lunch Break is a great channel. I highly suggest you check out My Lunch Break, especially if you're, you know, questioning history and the past and shit like that. At the same time, I'm pretty sure the dude's at least a Christian or programmed by Christianity. It is Saturday. That's what I thought. So that's why I was like, I didn't think it was Sunday. Oh, she did say enjoy your Saturday. I just read it wrong. That's hilarious. I work in New London. I've seen a number of submarines, but I never stopped to ask myself if they're real. Have you seen a number of submarines? Have you seen a number of boats? Because boats and submarines are two different things. You know, anybody can make a boat. Submarines are a whole different thing. And I guarantee you, lots of you have seen boats that can go under the surface of the water. But what proof do you have that submarines can go way down deep into the ocean and 300 meters deep and stay underwater for 6 months and, you know, all of the other bullshit they claim? Yep, that's the reason, because they're hard to make. I will check them out as far as it's not lunch break. Right. I mean, again, it's so interesting because look at the comments, right? You guys don't know shit about submarines. Just like with most of this stuff, you don't know shit. You just arrogantly come through and be like, no, they're real because I think they are. I saw the hunt for Red October. The system who lies to us about everything else tells us they're real. The system that says they can fly through space tells you they can fly through the water. No, do you believe in space travel? Absolutely not. I don't believe in space. I mean, I've seen the dome. And I know that might seem weird to people, but I've seen it. This was long, long before I was any sort of truther. I was in California. I was up in Willits, California, and I was living up on a weed mountain. And if you know anything about the Emerald Triangle and the whole Northern California weed situation, circa like 2000 and earlier, well then, you know, like back before weed was legal everywhere and okay, this is where the best weed came from. So I was living up on the weed mountain with this guy. He had lots of kids. Like he had like 8 kids or some shit. And you know, he had his house, his apartments. He had 2 apartments back in the town of Willits. That's where his family lived. But he also had this weed mountain. And during the season, he would hire people to stay up on the mountain just to, you know, keep an eye on things. I was one of those people. He also had this huge plot of land. So he had an elderly mother whom, she was such a bitch. But he wanted to bring her, you know, build her a little house up on the mountain. And that's what they did. But one day, for some reason, they had a big family get together, and all of his kids were there. His mom was there. His brother was there. You know, some other people were there, and everybody. It was like a big to do, and you know, everybody spent the night. So, me being me, I was. This had to be 2001 or 2. So I was like 21, 22. And I was all of the fucking dumbass partier. So, you know, there were lots of opiates around, and there was alcohol, and of course there was weed. So I had gotten all fucked up, passed out, woke up at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. And the thing about living up on the weed mountain is when you have to pee, you just sort of get up and you go and you pee, and then you go back to your little shed and you go to sleep. So I get up to pee, and like I'm standing like on the edge of the mountain, like it just drops down in front of me so I can just see out into forever. And I'm peeing, and I look up and I notice that there's a star that's doing like this. And it's interesting because if you look at the square, the camera, the star is literally staying within the square like a camera view. It's staying within this one area, but it's doing like this. And I remember thinking, like, that's a broken star. That's really weird because, you know, if that was a UFO and there were creatures inside and they were doing, like, they would just be scrambled. Like, what would be the purpose of that? What's going on here? So to prove I wasn't crazy, I ran around and woke everybody up. You guys gotta check this out. Holy shit, like, check this out, check this out. And there's a fucking UFO, you gotta check this out. So everybody gets up, they all look. Holy shit, that is real. What the hell is that? Blah, blah, blah. But most of them are in their 40s and 50s and shit. The kids are all young, so the kids, even if they got up, they went back to bed. But the older people all were like, okay, cool, and then they went back to bed. You know, it sort of trickled off. But I sat there and I'm like, all right, give me my bong, give me my weed and a chair, and I'm just gonna sit here and I'm gonna watch. And so I sat there and I watched as the rest of the stars went through their path. You know, they go through their motion. But this thing stayed in the same spot. And there's that time at like 5, you know, 4:45, 5:30, something like that. When before the sun comes up, it's like blue. You know what I'm saying? It's dark, but you can see a lot better. There's no sunlight, but you can still see. It's got that bluish tint to it everywhere. Lasts for like a half hour, maybe 20 minutes, I don't know. This pre-dawn time. And at this specific time, I noticed that, you know, you can still see the star and everything, but there's actually the outline of the square. And inside the square where the star is malfunctioning, it's like a little bit darker than the rest of the sky around it. So I can clearly see the outline of the square. And as everything else, as it lightens up, this square stays like a shade darker than everything else does, up until, you know, the sun comes up and the stars all disappear, and then you can't see anything. But I could still see the star doing that up until I couldn't see the star anymore. And at the time, I didn't even know what to do. Like, this wasn't I saw a UFO story. Right? Like, I just put it in the recesses of my brain and never really thought about it again until, I don't know, 2016, 17. I had just gotten surgery and I was all fucked up. And like Vicodins and shit, pain medication wakes me up. Like, I don't know how it, you know, it knocks other people out, but it like wakes me up. So I'm gonna have a hard time sleeping and shit. So it's like 1 in the morning, I'm all fucked up. And the other thing is, when I'm on opiates, I think I'm the fucking man. So like, my confidence level skyrockets. That liquid courage, but it's opiate courage, I don't know. But I'm all fucked up, and flat earth has already started to sort of take off. And for me, the earth being flat was just stupid. You know, for a while, my wife used to hate it because I would always, you know, make her watch, back when she gave a shit, when I was allowed to pick what was on the TV, I would always make her watch, like, space docs and documentaries about space, this, that, and the other, anything. Space was fascinating to me. You know, at the time, the idea of going to Mars, of sending a colony to Mars and on a one-way trip was being floated around, and they were talking about, would you volunteer? And I actually went through that. I was like, you know what, you know, at the time I was parking cars, So it's like my kids could either have a dad who parks cars or have a dad who is maybe not around, but he's not around because he's one of the first colonizers of Mars. Like I was like, hell yeah, you know what? I would do that. What's up, Big Pimpin'?
What's up? What you got going on?
Come on. You know me.
How are you trying to get?
Very.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. You know you're the best. Have a good one, brother. Look at that. Look at that. How high are you trying to get, he says. Ooh, it's even sealed. Like this hasn't even been opened yet. So it's one of those ones that's dipped in Kiev, got something in it. It has the glass. So let's see, it is premium indoor cannabis infused blunt. It is cannabis flower, cannabis concentrate, live resin, kief, terpenes, and terpenes, sorry. 2-gram blunt, extra strength 40% plus, hand rolled glass filter, special live resin infused, kief coated, terp enhanced. It's always a good thing to happen in the morning. You know, the thing is, I probably won't even smoke that. I'm not the biggest fan of dispensary weed. You know, all the chemicals and shit involved is not my thing. That's crazy. It's crazy that it's illegal anywhere. You could drink yourself into a fucking stupor, but it's illegal everywhere. Anyway, it's like 1 in the morning, and I decide I'm sick of all this flat earth nonsense. I'm fucking smart. I can debunk it. I don't know why everybody's making it seem like this is such a hard thing to debunk. Here, let me see what the presentation is. And for some reason, I ended up on Under the Dome instead of 200 proofs the Earth isn't a spinning ball, which is what I suggest you watch first if you're going to delve into the conversation. But Under the Dome, it still wasn't at the time. It didn't have, you know, maybe it had 50,000 views. I don't know. But what this dude had done, Sergeant Mark, what this dude had done is he made like a 15-part series. Each part was like 10, 15 minutes long. And what I ended up on was the compilation. It was like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. And at the end of each part, he would have his phone number and encourage people, you know, if you have any questions or anything like that, you know, call me. So it was like 2 in the morning when I finally was done and decided to call him. I don't know why. I'm not that type of person at all. Like, you could put your phone number on your video all day and I'll never call you. That's not me at all. But I was so inspired by what I had seen because it was one of those things where I went into it as confident as I could be, pilled out confident. And within 10 minutes of the first part, I was like, uh-oh. I think I might be wrong here. And it's because of the information that was presented. You know, that's it. I'm not the type that believes something out of faith. I'm not the type that believes something because I'm supposed to. For me, it's, if you present the best argument, then I'm going to believe what you're presenting. And so And so I call him, and I wouldn't have called him, but I noticed his number was a 757 number. So I figured at the very least he's in California. Come on. Sure you gotta go. Oh. You don't have to go, go. No? Okay. All right, I tried to let you out, dude. My wife's supposed to be taking care of that, but she's still sleeping, so I thought I'd put the dog out before it shat all over the place, but apparently it didn't need to shat. Need to have a shite. So I call him, and you know, again, I figure like you don't put your phone number on the end of the video if you don't want people calling you. You know, if you don't want to answer, you just don't answer. If you're like me, you turn the volume off, the ringer off when you go to sleep. Like it is what it is, right? So I call him, and he's, you know, he's like kind of excited, and he's kind of shocked, and he's excited that somebody's calling him, because he said that, I asked him, like, do a lot of people call you? And he said, surprisingly, no. But he was also all geeked up because the next day he was doing the Coast to Coast radio show. Like, this was the acknowledgement, you know. He's going to be on Coast to Coast. And so, I don't know why, but it just popped in my head. I was like, oh yeah, well, here's a story you could tell. And I told him a quick version of the Broken Star story. And when I was done, it like dawned on me. And at the same time, he said, holy crap, you saw the dome. And I said, holy crap, I saw the dome. And it's interesting because, you know, you go look at movies like King Kong, where he's actually in some giant dome. Look at movies like Free Guy, where, again, it's a giant dome made of little squares, little shapes, whatever. I mean, there's a Marvel cartoon movie about the kids of the, you know, Captain America and Black Widow have a kid, and Hawkeye and somebody else have it, like, you know, it's their kids, all some little thing. I know it because I have kids and we watched all of those things. But these kids are being held away, hidden from Ultron in the Arctic somewhere, but they don't know it. In their world, it's a tropical situation because they're underneath a dome. And the dome, obviously, it has the squares or the octagon shape, but usually it's squares. Well, it's diamonds. They have it turned side. But like this, I hadn't had all of that in 2002. There was no influence of that regard in 2002. I firmly believe the Earth was round. Would have laughed at anybody that said it was flat. I would have ripped you apart. All the arguments that you guys will make, I would have made. Actually, probably I would have made more because I was more into it. I watched everything. And so, like, that story doesn't make sense in the world that we live in. But this isn't a secondhand story. This is something I personally experienced. I saw it with my own two eyes. I felt it. You know, it was an experience. I wasn't even watching something like on TV. I was watching it in real time for hours. And my intuition immediately was like, why is that star broken? That's a broken star. Why is that star broken? And there is no excuse for it. There is no Even nowadays, knowing about drones, it's still not a acceptable excuse that a drone was just doing this for 4 hours. Just but I knew that experience some 15 years maybe before I knew anything that had to do with earth shape argument at all, like even a little bit. It wasn't even a thing back in 2002. Nobody was questioning the earth shape back in 2002, at least not that I saw. And as always, look at the comments. It's not going to be a bunch of intelligent people going, oh, well, what you saw was this, and it's easily explainable because of that, and clearly the earth is round because of this, and blah, blah. They're not going to say anything like that. And you'll see that consistently on my feed. It doesn't matter what I'm talking about. There's no intelligent opposition. There's not even opposition. It's more like it's just Team Jorge, trying to do everything they can to shoot the messenger. Because they know that there are going to be new people here every day. And there are going to be people who are on the fence. And there are going to be people who told somebody else to go check this guy out and all that stuff. They know that's how it's going to work. So they also know they can't, nothing I'm saying is untrue. If it was, they'd say so. It's just that simple. They wouldn't waste all the time, talking around, beating around the bush and, saying all kinds of stupid middle school kind of shit. They'd flat out just be like, dude, you're wrong about this. If I was in here telling you about the benefits of unicorn poop, everybody would be able to stay on topic. Everybody would have an opinion. Unicorns aren't real, and why would their poop be any good? And, they would have plenty to say. But they don't. And that should tell you something. That should tell you something else is going on here. If somebody is saying something that completely goes against the narrative, the accepted thing, there's no benefit to that. If it was just about attention, the best thing you could do was sell Jesus. Tell Jesus stories. Pretend that Jesus spoke to you, and Christians will lap that shit up, dude. Getting attention is easy. And there's much easier ways than making people upset because you're talking about things that they accept without question. If you're watching, like, share, and sub. Shit helps. That's what they sell. That's what they tell us. I don't know if it helps. I really don't. I think there's limitations put on everything. So this could be shared by 1,000 people. And if they wanted it, throttled, it would be throttled. People are extremely gullible and fear the truth. Yeah. You have to understand that the vast majority of the people believe in a sky daddy of some sort. For literally no reason. If anything, it actually goes against everything else they believe. And those same people that believe in sky daddy will wake up and check their horoscopes. Those same people that believe in sky daddy will arrange their furniture in a funny way for feng shui. Those same people that believe in Sky Daddy have sex before they get married and then have sex for reasons other than procreation. It all comes down to arrogance. It's arrogant of somebody to just deny what I'm saying. You know, if I'm telling you I flat out saw the broken star and then saw the square that it was in, it's just flat out arrogance for you to deny it. How can you deny it? It's not like you can give me an alternative. So is it just your, it's just your argument that I'm lying? I'm making it up? Very detailed story that I've told the exact same for fucking years? Just making that up? Is that what you tell yourself to feel better? Speaking of herd mentality. Must be about to rain, I guess. I don't know. This is the rational common sense that critical thinkers need. Fear and conditioning. I like it because it is the total truth. People... does this Joe guy, does he want me to be gay? Is that his thing? Like, are you trying to hit on me? Weirdo. I've seen God on DMT. Doesn't mean I'm still agnostic. The brain is funny. You can experience things. Okay, well, I really wasn't on a bunch of substances at the time, and I woke up a bunch of people who definitely weren't on substances. But I've also seen what I knew was God on an acid trip. And it's really, really strange to think about it in 2025, what I saw back in 1996 or 97. So my house was the party house. My mom would leave for the weekend to go to her boyfriend's. So everybody would come to my house. We'd take everyone's keys, and everyone would just party and pass out. Be like 15 of us at the most. And thankfully, like, it was the one place you could go to actually see girls. Girls were actually at my house. It wasn't just a sausage fest. Ah, those days. But me being the dumbass, some is good, more is better, fucking idiot. I took 4 hits of acid. I took a whole 4 square of acid. And I mean, just such a stupid thing to do at a party, at a high school party where the cops could show up, where you have dumbass kids who are irresponsible and don't give a shit about your mom's white carpet, and everybody of course smoked cigarettes, so there were ashtrays that would get knocked over and all that shit. So believe it or not, I never wrote, like, I was always a good writer, but I never wrote any poems or songs or anything like that until after this experience. And I must have been 18. But I took this acid, and somebody had the Doors on VHS tape. And so that got put in. And I was just like laser focused on it. And there was the scene where the Indian leaves Jim. Right, he's at the concert and the Indian leaves. And I remember feeling like that spirit passed into me while watching it. Like I totally believed it. And it's interesting considering Jim Morrison and Guy Williams have the same amount of letters in them. But that whole thing changed my life. This was one of those forks in the road, kind of experiences, because it must have been right after the movie ended. Mandy, the girl who was always known to knock over the fucking ashtray, knocks over the ashtray. And instead of just coming to get me to clean it up, because I had gotten really good at cleaning up ashtrays on white carpet, she tried to clean it up and made it worse by rubbing it in. So it like started this trickle, started this downfall. And I'm really uncomfortable about everything. I'm having this really bad, like I'm going into bad trip mode. And I kick everybody out. I'm like, you guys can't be here anymore. I'm sorry. Everybody's got to go. Everybody's got to go. And so I kick everybody out. And one of my better friends tried to stay. And I was like, no, man, you got to go. You just got to go. You just got to go. So I got everybody out. And now it's really weird. It's weird when you go from like a party to no party. Because at a party, there's music, there's the constant of people. There's multiple conversations happening at all times. So there's always that background noise. So now suddenly it's fucking dead quiet. And I am just starting to fucking like just go back. It's getting bad. And I pick up the landline. It's a landline. It's a portable. I pick it up and I call my dad, who is like, he lives like 20, 30 minutes away. Mind you, it's like 1 a.m. And I call him and I'm like, Dad, I'm dying. I just wanted to let you know I'm dying. I love you. I'm sorry I took too much acid. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm dying. And I just wanted you to know. So I hang up. Call my mom, and I'm sure as I call my mom, my dad's trying to call back, but there's no, it's busy. You only understand that if you're my age or more, right? So I call my mom. She is at her boyfriend's house, which is like 25, 30 minutes away as well. I tell her the same thing. I'm dying. Sorry. I love you, blah, 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 blah. I try calling my, like, 70-something, like, super, super conservative, would not understand even a little bit grandmother, who also happens to live like 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away. And I remember going to call her and trying to dial, and it was hurting my fingers to touch the phone. It was like I could feel the energy coming off the phone, and it was like, and I could have sworn I dialed the number that I knew forever, 348-3423. It's long dead, so you can call it all you want. Nobody's going to answer. Or somebody might answer, but not my family. But I tried calling her, and it didn't go through. And I might have tried a second time, and it just didn't. For some reason, it just wasn't working, thankfully, because that might have killed my grandmother, especially if she got in the car and came to me. That would have been really, really awful. And this is pre-cell phones by far. This is just a really bad situation. So at this point, I'm just so fucked up. Everything is just it's so intense. Everything is just so intense, and it's so quiet, and it's just I am having a really bad time at this point. And for all I know, I remember dropping the phone. I don't remember if it was on or not. I don't remember if that if it worked, right? Like so if anybody tried to call, it would have been a busy signal. But I ended up just dropping the phone and like crawling to my room. And my bed is on the floor, and it's a twin size bed, or not a twin size bed, a full size bed. And I went to the edge. It was pitch black. I maybe tried watching TV, but watching TV on acid was always really fucking weird for me. Like if I wasn't paying attention to it, I couldn't hear it correctly. Like I'd look over and then it would be all distorted. And I'd look back at the TV and I could hear it, but it was just so strange. And so I might have avoided it, I don't know. But I sat on the edge of my bed and I just like Nestea iced tea fell back. And as I did that, I don't know I don't know what happened, but I left. And I found myself in this huge, empty, black, like warehouse, but I couldn't see the edges of it. And in front of me was this giant pyramid. It was actually, the pyramid on the back of the $1 bill. I didn't make that connection until many years later, but that's sort of what it looked like, except for the lines of the bricks were all like electric light blue, like a neon color, like a strange blue color and glowing. And it was like there were all these, I don't want to say wires, but like energy streams that were coming off of it. And I was just standing there in awe, like far away from it, but still I could see just how big it was. And I knew what I was looking at was God, but not, it's what people, it was what God really was instead of the image that people had. And I was just looking at it and intimidated and scared. And then I don't know if like, at the same time, my mom and dad both showed up to the house. And like they hadn't seen each other in fucking years. But it must have been, I don't know if I heard the keys in the door or they came in and closed the door or whatever it was that snapped me out of it. But suddenly I was out of it, and I was completely like emotionally just drained. There was nothing in there. And I came out and I'm like, my mom and dad are like, what the hell? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. Shouldn't have done that. Bad idea. Like I was monotone, and it was such a weird feeling. And I was sitting on the couch, and my mom was saying something, and I remember my dad being like, he's fucked up. He doesn't know what's going on here. But I was, it wasn't like I was tripping anymore. It was just really just weird, like I had been zapped. Like all of just everything about me had been zapped. And my mom was in the process of yelling, and I was sitting in the couch, and suddenly I stood up. And as I did, puke came up, and I was like, what? And it filled my face. And I started walking to the bathroom, and our apartment was like the front door. You'd walk in the door, and immediately to the right, there was a bathroom door. And that bathroom, it was a full bathroom. It had a full bathtub, shower, and a sink and a toilet. But you'd walk into that bathroom, and immediately on your left was another door to go directly into my room. And then there was All the doors were within like 5 feet of each other. And then if you walked around the bathroom door, you'd walk in the house and the bathroom door is on the right. If you walked around that door, then my bedroom door was there. So I get up to go to the bathroom, and as I'm getting to the bathroom and lifting up the toilet lid, another heave comes up, and it just blows out like all over the fucking place. And I looked up at my mom like an asshole, and I said, "Oh, well, they don't make cheeks like they used to." And I just got up, I walked into my room, I fell forward on my bed, and I passed out. And the next day I wake up, and I just, it's I don't know what time it is. 10 o'clock, 11, I don't remember. But I wake up and I go out, and like it just stinks. It smells like puke, and I look in the bathroom and the puke is on. My mom left it. My mom's a super clean freak. For my mom to leave it meant she was pissed. My dad probably told her to leave it. But I walk out, and I'm just like, I'm really sorry, blah blah blah. And she was like, "Yeah, well, go clean it." And I went and I cleaned it. And that was I'm a high schooler, or I'm maybe just out of high school. There wasn't an internet like it is now. There was an internet, but it was like, it wasn't a pleasant experience, and you had to be like computer smart to do it. HTTP / like you had to know all that shit, and I was not that guy. So I had no concept of Illuminatis. I had no concept of alternative history. Nothing. I believed what I was supposed to believe, other than the God part. I didn't believe in God. So it wasn't like I was seeing what I wanted to see. But it's another one of those things that you sort of put away, bring up every once in a while, but, not really sure. And now that I'm older, now that we have the access to the information that we have, it's much more explainable. And it was like, for me, who believes that the most likely scenario is that we are an advanced version of us. They're a reality show for an advanced version of us. Because I look at just, we're close to that. I tried to let them out. Thumper went out, came right back in, so. We got a present. No. But I remember, like, the idea of this God that I was looking at was like a control center. It was like a computer control center.
Looking at you like, I want my breakfast. Why aren't you feeding me?
But that was the feeling that I received. Like, this is what's controlling the reality as we know it. But, it just seemed like that was the, as I've gotten, it's hard to put it into words, but it's the, because again, I'm a fucking human in 2025. This technology doesn't exist yet. This is like Tesla describing the world without having the concept of television or reality TV. He described, that we live in some sort of dome structure with crazy signals. All sorts of weird signals being broadcast throughout the ether. And I'm sure that if he was alive today, he would call it a reality TV show. We're clearly in the reality TV show. But that was it was strange to experience. It was, and I've had many acid trips that I can't tell you a whole bunch of details about. But this one was really intense, especially that time after I woke up when it wasn't me. I didn't feel like me. And like I say, after that is when I started writing. So take from that what you will. But there you go. Hey, there's some personal stories. You guys always want to talk about me. So here, I told you some personal stories. Does any of that take away from the fact that the Israelis are killing children? I mean, I hate to even say that. Like, killing children makes it sound like if they were just killing adults, it would be okay. You know, killing children isn't worse than killing adults. You know, killing anyone is just awful. Oh, I love this idea that I'm Jewish. Why would I hide that? Wouldn't that make my argument so much stronger? If I could sit here and say that I was born into the cult and I was smart enough to get out of it, wouldn't that be like a better argument for me? If I could say, yes, my crazy family did all these crazy chosen rituals and blah, blah. Plus, it would eliminate me, not being allowed to say the things. If I grew up in that cult and I could say my family is that cult, well, that would, that would give me carte blanche to be able to say whatever I want, right? You'd think they would welcome the personal stories. They're always talking about me, right? You'd think it'd be all about, nothing. They don't even have to debunk it. Although, both of my personal stories contradict the narrative we're given. Yeah, it's normal shit to talk about the dome, seeing the dome and a broken star, and then being on acid and seeing the true representation of God. These are totally normal stories. This is totally normal shit compared to, what we always talk about here. And why would we talk about killing pedos, ending genocide, ending the J control scheme? Got any ghost stories? No, I don't. No. I'm not a big ghost believer. I mean, obviously there's more to it than what we're taught. Obviously, again, there's a bigger picture. So many ghost stories and shit are just goofy to me. And can be explained by regular shit. But, my wife has a Ouija board story that you can't explain it. There's just no explaining it. Not by normal measures. So, yeah, I don't know. I really hate wasting time talking about me. I really hate wasting time telling stories, fireside chats. timeless and realms, so on and so on. Stargate shizzle. Want me to go through. Especially tripping. Remember, the Europeans were told the world was flat to keep them in the caves of West Asia to save the rest of civilizations from their savagery. Why do you believe that? What makes you believe that? I wish I would have seen that comment from Michael. I'm sure he's gone by now, but
You have to scan them while they're eating or they don't eat. So if you're done eating.
I don't, yeah, it's not my job.
They're outside now, and Daisy walks right out, shits on the deck, and then goes down the stairs.
Not my chair,
I'm not touching
not my problem. That's what I always say.
the one that's moving back.
Exactly. You know, Michael says, I'm going to read it again. So when did you figure out you got programmed like the rest of us? When did I figure out I was programmed? At a very early age, I realized I wasn't like everybody else. There's no point in my life where I believed in God. I remember questioning the legitimacy of Columbus. You know, I always thought, why should I respect someone who isn't respecting me? Doesn't matter how old they are. Just because you're older than me doesn't make you better in any sort of way. So, you know, we should all just be equal. But as far as, you know, like I've been questioning the legitimacy of slavery and the Native American genocide for years. It's interesting that the Tartaria stuff start popping up around 2020. But I've been saying it for years. You know, the turning point for me, the most major turning point for me was in 2001, maybe. Was this? Yeah, this was, no, sorry. It was 2004 or 5. Because it must have been 5, because 9/11 videos were available. I'm not really sure. There was a MySpace was brand new. I wouldn't say brand new, but MySpace was pretty new. And it looked, MySpace was still like green, if you remember that. I was in Virginia. We had just gotten a computer. I'm not even sure why I knew about MySpace. Like, I don't know. I thought it was silly, you know. Like, I was the guy who refused getting a cell phone forever because I just thought, like, if I'm not at home, then you shouldn't be able to call me. Like, I don't know why I had that mentality, but that was the mentality I had. So I'm not sure why I found MySpace, but and when I was in Virginia, I was super lonely, and I was in a really bad relationship. So, you know, maybe just looking for friends. I don't really know how I came across MySpace, but I'd made a MySpace profile. I found a couple of people I knew, and I looked up a dude who, because he had such a unique name, I knew it would only be him. Right? His name was Scott Harz, Haarz. Look him up. He's a good dude. But I found his MySpace page, and it was, and you know, and this was like right around this time. There was that soldier that Bush got off Air Force One, and the soldier refused to salute him. And I know they used that story in multiple situations, but this was that one. It was right around then. I just wrote the song Patriotism. You know, I was very much like, Bush might be an idiot, but he's our president. You know, we need to show unity and strength because those Arabs are trying to kill us. You know, 9/11, the Arabs are trying to kill us. You know, I was inundated with that mentality. And yet at the same time, I know when 9/11 happened, I was watching it live with my mom. And when the first tower fell, or maybe it was the second tower, she was just screaming, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And she said, you know, we need to round all those people up and just put them on an island and bomb them. And she was talking about the Arabs, and I was like, wow, Mom, that's really kind of sick. Like, what if it was black people that had done it? Because right away they were pushing the notion that Arabs did it. So I didn't necessarily believe that you know, Arabs were going to get us, but I did believe in the idea of America. You know, we are a symbol, and we don't want to be attacked by showing weakness. So if you know, you even if you didn't vote for Bush, stand behind him and then vote for somebody else next time. Like, that was my mentality. I did believe in that kind of shit. Like, I believed in the patriotism idea of things, and I had no concept. Like, there was no Illuminati. Like, I went through that whole process like a lot of people do, where you first sort of stumble across the Illuminati and the New World Order, and you look into these things, and you keep looking, and you keep, like, it just, there was a definite progression from believing that, you know, go listen to Patriotism. It's available somewhere. Probably on YouTube. You can look up Patriotism, My Head Radio. Maybe it'll be up, I don't know. My Head Radio was awesome. That was my previous band. That guy died a whole bunch of years ago, so. But he was so fucking, something just wasn't right about that guy. He went by Wex Wexner, and I had no idea who that was. Well, nowadays, with the whole Epstein thing, for my bandmate to go by Wex Wexner, he was a Shell executive. Like, the whole thing was really strange. When we started to make it, when we actually started to get a bunch of press and, like, it looked like we were on our way, he found every reason to sabotage things. And again, the more I look back on it, I just really wonder, like, what the fuck was going on there? We had a website that, when a friend looked it up, he was like, you know, he looked up, I forgot what the page he looked it up on was, but our website was like ranked at the very, very bottom. And he went and he looked at it, and he was like, well, where are all the source words? Where's the, this is a website for someone who doesn't know anything about computers to think they have a website. But anybody that actually knows about websites knows that this is nothing. This is just like a picture on a wall. And I always thought, like, dude, you're a computer guy. Like, it really was crazy. But the point was the song Patriotism is about, as Americans, we need to stand behind our president no matter what. And so I'm going through MySpace. I find Scott Hars, and Scott Hars's page is all about 9/11 conspiracy, loose change, a bunch of thermite videos, and at the top, his banner was like 9/11 was an inside job, something like that. And I remember when I found him, I was like, oh, dude, come on, not you too. We need to stand behind our president. We need to stand up for, America. What are these videos? What is this thermate? And I started watching his videos, or the videos he had he had attached to his page. MySpace was amazing. MySpace was a lot better than Facebook was. Especially if it's about, your thing. Not about you, about your thing. If you were trying to make it all about you and pay attention to me and look at my feet and look at what I ate for dinner and all that, then Facebook and then Instagram was a much better option. But MySpace was like the workhorse. MySpace was the place where nothing bands could actually make something of themselves. And there was a period there where there were a lot of people who made names for themselves just based off of MySpace. Our MySpace page had some 46,000 fans. I was told by an industry insider that they looked for people like that, and they would, if you had 25,000 fans or more, then they would reach out. So when I said we had 46,000, she was like, nobody reached out? What the hell? That's weird. Yeah, that's weird. But I remember going through his videos, and it was the same sort of experience I had watching Under the Dome fucking, 10 plus years later, where immediately I knew I was wrong and something else was going on. So that was sort of the start, 9/11, and then when the info started coming out, because people, like we tend to think that 9/11 happened and then the videos were all available on YouTube and shit like that right away, and it just wasn't like that. Every piece of footage you have ever seen regarding 9/11 was confiscated by the FBI somehow, CIA, whatever, and kept under wraps for like 5 years or something like that. And then it was all returned. But you just didn't see 9/11 stuff like you think you did, like you could now. You just couldn't just go look it up like that. You might be able to see the couple of news shots that were available from the beginning, but there just wasn't the footage like it is now. So it was loose change, I guess. I don't know if his page had loose change on it or whatever, but I know I immediately was hooked. And immediately I was like, something just isn't right. And being someone that never believed in religion to begin with, and being the pariah because I don't, the way people responded to me not being religious was the exact same way people responded to not believing in 9/11. And eventually, not believing in the earth shit. And it was that sort of like, if the same treatment came my way for not believing in God, when I know that shit's not true, then, but um, that same attitude of not embracing it and trying to help someone understand or, provide alternative information. It was attack, and attack with stupidity. Attack without fact, with that, herd mentality. Well, you should believe it because we're supposed to believe it. You should have faith because you have faith. Did you see the footage about the dancing Israelis in 9/11? Apparently a group of Israelis, dancing Israelis are a big deal. The dancing Israelis were I don't know if they were filmed, but they were filming, they were set up and filming before the first tower hit. And after the first tower hit, a lady called and the police and said, hey, there's this group out there, they're like celebrating, they look Arab, and they're filming it. They were filming the whole thing. They filmed the first one. And the police were like, yeah, okay, lady, we're really busy right now. And then after the second one hit, she called back and was like, these guys are out here high-fiving and celebrating and dancing. And they filmed it. Get somebody here. They're going to pack up and leave here in a minute. And so police came, arrested them. They might even been in one of the famous moving trucks with the imagery on the side. They were arrested. They were taken into custody. They were held for like 2 months. They failed every lie detector possible. They said that they were there to document the event. They were there to document the event. So they had, prior knowledge of it. Eventually it was just like the high-ranking J in the U.S. government pushed for their release, and it was one day they were just flown to Israel, first class. Flown to Israel. They were acknowledged Mossad agents. They were flown to Israel, where they ended up going on TV and bragging about the whole thing. The dancing Israelis. Go look it up. It's pretty well fucking documented. There's more than enough evidence to, at the very least, justify a new investigation, but that shows that Israel did it. I mean, it's just what it is. And the reality is, if the United States government did it, it's because Israel was pulling the strings. You have to believe me? No. I encourage you to look everything I'm saying up and then prove me wrong. Everything. I don't think anyone has to believe me on anything. Nice try, though. This is an aerial. Gee, I wonder who that is. So the submarine was in under the Pacific Ocean is fake. So the submarine was in under the Pacific Ocean was fake. Submarine you were in? Yeah, I'm okay with saying that. I'm okay with saying that you're lying. Like you realize that's all it ever comes down to. Is somebody's lying. Do you really put that past people? Do you really think people aren't lying? Yeah, people lie all the time. Most of the people that claim to be Christian, I think they're lying. I don't think they really believe in that shit. But lying is what people do all the time, especially if they're Israeli, or especially if they're military and you're not. What'd you do? Wait. Yes, you do. You lie all the time. But I think it's because you're ignorant and not on purpose. Right. So this is one of those things where instead of saying such a dumbass blanket statement, why don't you point to one of the things that I'm lying about? Tell me what I'm lying about and tell me what the truth is. You tell me the real truth. You tell me how I'm lying because I know about more shit than you do. My brother was a submariner, sure. Why anyone would believe a religious person or a military person? Do civilians not understand that if a military person is told to lie to the civilians, they have to? Like that's part of the thing. They're not supposed to tell us what we're not supposed to know. They have no obligation to us. They have no loyalty to us. God, country, and the military, or the military, God, and country, one of the three. We were on such a good run, damn. Right. Don't talk about Israel. Don't talk about the Jays. Why do you think, if they're the good, righteous, wonderful people that we're supposed to think they are, I guess, why would they encourage us not to talk about them? Any of it. Any situation. If I'm wrong about whatever I'm talking about, why would you encourage me not to say it? How do you know that I'm not saying something that other people think? And by answering me, then you're answering other people as well. Do you have any healthy hobbies? Yeah, when I'm not doing the live feed, I look for other people that are live and then I troll them. Especially if they're like, we should kill pedos. We should eliminate the J power structure, therefore eliminating the pedos and the genocide and all the slavery and all that shit. If I find somebody saying that shit, my healthy hobby is to find them and then just try to get them to talk about anything other than what they're talking about. And then I try to make anybody that's watching them think they're crazy, because that's my healthy hobby. Or at least scroll past to a feed you enjoy like a regular human would. These are hours of your life you'll never get back again. Points make prizes. There you go. You enjoy any meat. Again, why would you want me to talk about something other than what I'm talking about? He runs out to them. He's lying, especially the douche. Yeah. Only if they're only worth trolling, huh? Drop the location. Let's spar. Can you imagine how small that dude's dick is? Can you imagine how small Lil Ryan's penis is? He's trying to fight people on YouTube who are talking about things that he's not smart enough to ask. People that are asking questions he's not smart enough to ask or answer. And he's like, oh, I want to fight you. Like, other than a tiny pecker, what motivates that? It says on your description it's not my description, that's the title. It's the title. And then afterward, it says part. So just like, again, do you go to Shell gas station and be like, hey, you have a big picture of a Shell. Do you guys sell shells here? And then get mad when there's no shells? There's a really popular YouTube channel called My Lunch Break. Guess what it's not about? But you don't understand that, right? Micro nano, maybe. It's got to be tiny. It really has to be, man. I see a dude with a whole bunch of gray hair, I'm gonna fight him because he's saying stuff that I don't want to say. I don't want to. I'm too stupid to talk about. What? No shells? No jets? There you go. You don't understand how things work, I guess. There's a guy. It's amazing how many regular people know about the guy on YouTube that built his own submarine. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he goes underwater for 300 meters deep and stays under for 6 months and, blah, 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 blah. People are so stupid. It's unfucking real, man. But again, the part where you're on the feed, they're talking about much more important things than submarines. And you're like, yeah, but I really want to talk about submarines. Sunday morning, I wake up every day and I put submarines into YouTube and I just look for anybody talking about it so I can get involved in the submarine conversation. I want to fight you. Never mind this vocabulary usage. It's the same thing over and over again. Oh no, he has friends. They have a very tight circle. I mean, they're all so tight that they rape each other's kids. It's a whole different thing. There's an article I really suggest everybody looks up. Go to your Google machine, type in Israel Hayom, Hayom, and then put in bottom of darkness. So just like this feed, right? The title is Israel Hayom. That's the website. That's the proprietor of said story. And then the story is called Bottom of Darkness. Guess what? I don't know what Israel Hayom means, but the story is not about some darkness that they're at the bottom of. It's a metaphor, right? But you should go look up this article and understand, like, if they can do that to their own children, what do you think they do to the slaves, the cattle? What do you think they do to us? Israeli South Park. Always puts you in my feed because I clicked one time. Yeah, well, the funny thing is, like, I have YouTube, so I know how it works. I can't tell you how many videos I scroll past. I don't see stuff and go, YouTube says watch it, so I have to watch it. If that's really who you are, again, it just shows this huge difference between us, because I just can't imagine that shit. Okay, so if you're not chosen, you're already on the list. This is the part where it's like it's so frustrating that people are so willingly brainwashed. I'm the bad guy because I am talking about it. But they, look, the ants didn't like the sun, so they moved. I'm the bad guy. And the thing is, like, I'm trying to look out for you. At the end of the day, it's all of us. If we're not them, We're victims. We're fodder. The fact that there's even one video that shows this, but then there's multiple of Israel who somehow was given control over the resources, the aid distribution that they created the need for to begin with. The only reason that aid is necessary is because Israel bombed the shit out of these people. So now Israel is responsible for giving them their food? Like, it just doesn't make sense on a normal level, right? On a common sense level. However, if you say Israel, one, the people who love to poison things are going to poison the food, but two, this way they can herd all of the Palestinians into a small group, desperate to get food, and then shoot at them. And the fact that there's, again, even one of these videos, let alone hundreds at this point, showing that they bring these people in, they bring them in and corral them in with the minor hopes that they might be able to feed their children or their brothers or sisters or whatever. And as soon as they give the green light to get the food, they have like 5 minutes. And then suddenly the light turns red, and as soon as it does, they start shooting at them. They start killing these people. These people so desperate to feed their relatives that they would take food from their oppressors. Do you guys understand how insane that is? Do you see why guys like the Ginger want us to stop talking about this stuff? Because it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what you believe in. When you hear these stories, when you see these videos, it trumps all of that. We as humans care about each other. And those that don't should be on their own. There's no such thing as Hamas. Look at how again, there's nothing that can be said here. Why didn't God promise Abraham somewhere better? That place is kind of shit. No, it's not. The area they've taken is extremely beautiful. The thing is, as an American, you've been taught to believe that it's like the desert and it's just shitty there. No, man, it's paradise. All year round, it's paradise. Anybody would love to live in such an amazing region. You're just wrong about that one. But you should look up the Uganda scheme, because in the early 1900s, late 1800s, they were going to give Israel they were going to make until they could take over Palestine, they were going to give they were going to give themselves Uganda, a big piece of Uganda. And if it weren't for it being too much work, they would require too much work on their end, they would have done it. But they're just so lazy. But yeah, go educate yourself. There was no Hamas, or there is no Hamas. There were no Israelis killed on October 7th, nor were they taken hostage. It's all bullshit. And the thing is, this is the best part. Why would why would Israelis want that story to be true? Isn't it better to think that no Israelis died? If you're an Israeli, don't you wish that no one died? Isn't it better, even though it's fucked up, isn't it better to think that it was just a false flag and that none of your people actually died? Wouldn't that be the better option? Same thing with Handy Suck. Wouldn't it be better if that wasn't true? I mean, it's the same thing with slavery, you know. It's always interesting to me how the biggest, like, it's the same thing with Christians, right? Christians are the biggest devil worshippers in the world. I've never met anybody who was like, yeah, I'm a Satanist, I'm a devil worshiper, other than like some dumb weird kid in school, you know. One of the kids that got beat up a lot would be like, yeah, I'm a Satanist. Yeah. But I've never met any in my real life. The biggest believers and pushers of Satan are Christians. Christians are the ones who give Satan all the credit. Christians are the ones who give Satan all the power. Christians are the ones who think for some reason the earth is Satan's realm. You know, just all kinds of crazy shit that Christians believe. Black people are the first people to fight and get mad if you say slavery didn't happen. You've been taught to believe that if you say this one specific group has all the money, the power, and the control, that's akin to a racial slur. Saying money, power, and control is a racial slur. That's like dropping an N-bomb. When you think about the crazy things you've been taught to believe, the way that if you can control how people think, what they think is secondary. So if you can control that people, they accept that you live on a ball flying through space, everything that comes with that is then secondary. Well, then you say, oh, dinosaurs were here until a rock fell out of the sky and the rock wiped out the night. Like, you know, we're always in a perpetual state of danger that another rock might fall out of the sky and kill everybody. Or they could just bomb the shit out of somewhere and say that a rock fell out of the sky. When they control how you think, you know, if you believe that it's not miasma that gets everyone sick. It's these sentient, intelligent germs, invisible germs that are just everywhere. Well, then you can tell people to get all the shots you need because they'll believe they have an immune system. If I ask you guys, point to your immune system, what are you going to say? Where is it? Where's your immune system? Every single person watching this believes, here, we'll skip through the comments. Okay. What is miasma? Look it up. Miasma is what the whole world believed up until the 1880s was the reason why people got sick. For thousands of years, that's what people believed, that the air was toxic. And that if you were surrounded yourself with toxic air, then you could get sick from it. It wasn't until the 1880s that they started introducing the idea of what is still considered to be germ theory. But let's do another example. You guys like examples. So every single one of you believes that one day, patient zero is just walking down the street when suddenly COVID or flu manifests inside of them. And suddenly they start coughing and sneezing because they have these germs. Somehow the germs came from somewhere, or they just manifested them, not really sure. But now, as this person is walking around, they're like a toxic sprinkler, right? Every time they cough and sneeze, one of two things happens. If it's not windy, if they're in a still room, then a cloud comes out. And the cloud is kind of greenish, with little red speckles in it, but it's also invisible. And now one of two things happens. If there's no wind, then the cloud just sits there, right? And anybody that just do, you go walking, all you got to do is breathe. And the germs, they know that you've walked through the cloud. They run up your nose into your mouth or whatever, and they get you sick. Or if you're in a restaurant and the restaurant has circulating air, my neighbor told me this, my elderly neighbor said, well, I heard a sneeze can go as far as 60 feet. So you're sitting in your restaurant, you even have your mask on, and every time you go to take a bite, you pull your mask down to take your bite. Well, if somebody sneezes on the other side of the restaurant and the air is circulating, that air is flying through the whole restaurant, and as you pull your mask down, the germs can run up in there and get you sick. The other thing that you believe that happens is that when people cough or sneeze, if they cough or sneeze here, then everyone's safe. It's no big deal. Here, we're in the clear. Here, oh man, here we're in the clear. Cough here instead, everyone's dead. Because if you cough on your hand or sneeze on your hand, now you have COVID sauce, flu sauce all over your hand. And what it is it's this super intelligent, self-replicating creature that is invisible, and it's all over your hand, and anytime you brush the wall with your hand, or you touch a pencil, or you push a door handle, or whatever, that COVID sauce leaves your hand, it puts a stripe on the wall. It gets on the door handle, it gets on the pen. And as it gets onto the pen or the door handle, it starts self-replicating, covers the whole thing in invisible COVID sauce. That COVID sauce, again, is super smart. So it now knows that it's just to sort of lay dormant. If it's on a countertop, it just sits there, it forms like a little can. And remember, the inside of your body is 98.6 degrees on average. So this thing starts by living inside of a 98.6 degree wet environment, and then gets coughed or sneezed out onto, flu season isn't when it's warm outside. Flu season is once it starts getting cold. So the 98 degrees, it can drop down to like 50 degrees sitting on the top of the countertop. 40 degrees, something like that. And whatever it is, the COVID sauce, it survives. It knows how to adapt to now live in a 50 degree colder environment. 60 degree colder environment, you never know. And it just waits. And now somebody else comes walking along, and they touch the door handle, they touch the countertop, they use the pen. And it's not like they take the COVID sauce from that thing. Not just have some self-replicating COVID sauce on their hand. That pen is still toxic. But now that person has the self-replicating COVID sauce on it that's on their hands. Now, if they go wash their hands, then the COVID sauce goes down the drain, right? But if they happen to scratch their ear, or rub their chin, or pick their nose like we all do, and no one's looking, then the COVID sauce jumps off of their hand. It knows that it's now on your face. It jumps off their hand, and now it runs up into their nose or their mouth, and now we come to the immune system. The immune system is these like white blood cell ninjas that sit at the entranceway. And if you have a strong immune system, well then they chaka, they chop the shit out of the COVID sauce and you're fine. And you can even strengthen it by giving it, steroids. Then you have like a big beefy immune system. But if your immune system isn't strong enough, they get overwhelmed by the COVID sauce and you get sick. And as it transfers from person to person, they just start manufacturing. They become a new sprinkler. Just spreading COVID sauce everywhere they go. Literally, every single one of you believes that. And if you don't, how dare you? How goddamn dare you? You believe what you're told. You're not arrogant enough to pick and choose what you believe, right? The system says that there's intelligent, invisible germs out there. Funny thing is, the concept of germs came around at the exact same time as, but again, why do we call Germany? It's Deutschland. They are the Deutsch. They speak Deutsch. It's Deutschland. So why would we call them Germany? Therefore, if they're Germany, they're the Germans, they're the germs. Right? They just happen to be the big bad. For the next 2 world wars, the bad guys are the germs. Interesting coincidence, I'm sure. But that's what the vast majority of you believe without question. You have no reason to believe that. You actually have reason to believe the opposite. If any of you have ever been in any sort of relationship, live-in relationship or otherwise, your partner has gotten sick. And you, as a good partner, have slept next to them. Right? You've it's not like you slept in another room. You slept inches away from them for an entire night while they're just spewing out COVID sauce or flu sauce, whatever it is, into your enclosed room under the blankets and shit where you're inches from. At some points throughout the night, you're facing them, they're facing you, and they're just spewing COVID sauce. You didn't get sick. If you're a pot smoker, you smoked many, many bowls and joints with people who were sick. And you just went, well, the smoke will kill it. But you experienced way, way, way more times in your life that you've come in contact with sick people and you didn't get sick from it. And yet you still believe it. You still believe, you still walk around with a fucking mask on. Long after they told us masks don't work for COVID, everybody had masks on. At some point, you realize we're being lied to. And it's funny because in your real life, like if you knew somebody, how many times would it take that person lying to you straight to your face about anything, whether it's something important or it's something mundane? where you're like, are you telling me the truth? And they're like, you have to believe this. This is the truth. Only for it to not become, for it to be proven untrue. How often do you, like, how many times does somebody have to lie to you like that before you don't trust them anymore? I would imagine it's not many. I mean, depending on who it is, I guess, and what position you've given them in your life. Soy boy. Ooh, ow. Ow. That hurts my feelings. But seriously, how many times would it take, like, I always use this example. If at 5 o'clock one day, the doorbell rang, you open the door, and someone punched you in the face. The next day, if the doorbell rang at any point of the day, but especially at 5 o'clock, would you just open the door again? Or would you look through the peephole? And if you look through the peephole and you saw that same person standing there that hit you in the face last time, would you be like, oh, it's you. Here, let me open the door. Or would you immediately be like, why the fuck did you hit me in the face? And then, if that's the case, what could they say? Oh, I was just having a bad day. Oh, I was drunk. Oh, I was this. Oh, I was that. I promise you, I'll never do it again. I just came here to apologize. Would you open the door? If you open the door and they hit you in the face, what would you do the next day? Doorbell rings at 5 o'clock, same fucking person. Would you entertain them even a little bit? Or would you probably call the police? How many times has the system punched you in the face and you're still opening up the door? How many times has the system flat out lied to you and you're still opening the door? I mean, the reality is it all comes down to your arrogance. Turn the other cheek, I think. It really does come down to arrogance. Right? At the end of the day, is there anybody on here who believes the Oswald shot Kennedy narrative? He impossibly got off 8 shots, or 3 shots in 8 seconds. 2 of which hit their target. 1 of which is considered the magic bullet because of all the damage it did, and then magically found its way onto the gurney that Kennedy was on, and it was in pristine condition, just sitting right next to him. Went through him, went into him, up through, traveled into Governor Wallace? No. Whatever the other guy's name was. Went through his arm, blew out his knee, came out, and then somehow ended up on Kennedy's gurney, in pristine condition. How many of you actually believe the narrative that you're told about Kennedy? Will anybody say yes? Yes, Seinfeld disproves it. Disproves what? I'm asking, can anyone say, I believe that Oswald shot Kennedy all by himself? I believe the narrative that the government gives me. They spit out I don't think anyone believes that. Exactly. So the same system that tells you COVID is real The same system that tells you Arabs did 9/11. The same system that tells you Israel is the good guy. The same system that tells you you should probably be a Christian. The same system that tells you every other aspect of history. Well, what gives you the confidence, the arrogance to say that all of those other things are true, but not this one thing? Who are you to decide that? If you believe the system that tells you the earth is round, because that's the only way you believe it, you have no other reason than to trust the system that told you Oswald shot Kennedy. If you believe we went to the moon in 1969 and it's not a travel destination in 2025, then you better believe that Oswald shot Kennedy. The same people telling you each thing you don't get to pick and choose. Who are you to pick and choose? What system are you basing this choice off of? What you know? What techniques are you using to extrapolate whatever facts you need necessary to prove to you that they're lying? Because that's what you're saying. You're saying the system is flat out lying to us about Kennedy. But then you think they're telling you the truth, or you decide that they're telling you the truth in all these other cases? What gives you that power? That, like, there, 5-syllable, 3-word, gunman names. Right. 5 syllables, 3 gunmen. It's always the same. Lee, Harvey, Oswald, John, Wilkes, Booth. Like, it's... And except for Sirhan. But that's the Kennedy that nobody talks about. The one that it's like... Again, if you believe that narrative, that Sirhan was 4 or 5 feet in front of Kennedy and somehow shot him at point blank range behind the ear and behind the right flank. Like... It's all just fucking silly. And Sirhan is absolutely connected with MK Ultra. There's no denying it. He says, I don't remember doing it. I was at home vacuuming. Phone rang. Next thing I knew, I'm sitting there holding the body. People are taking pictures of me. You can see it in his face. He has no idea what's going on. Mark David Chapman. The good part of the system want COVID to be real. Want COVID to not be real. Like people who are losing money from lack of labor. Oh. Guy is starting to crack me. Yeah, well, that's what I do. That's what the fuck I do. I present you with stuff in a way that you would have to be an idiot to fucking believe it. And none of you want to acknowledge that you're an idiot, because you're not. You see through all this shit. Literally anything they tell us we're not supposed to talk about, why? Why would you want us to not talk about it? If it's true, then you should expect, you should want people to ask whatever questions they can ask to alleviate any concerns they may have. Yep, I'm just here. Oh, that person that made the claim earlier, I don't remember what it was, but they're back. I'm just high and talking nonsense. So you believe that Oswald shot Kennedy, right? Don't give a fuck what you have to say. You're a piece in the puzzle. If you really want my acknowledgement, that just says more than people realize. You know, it really does come down to just choice and arrogance. Ask yourself why you believe any of the things you believe. All of you Christians out there, I mean, I can't stress this enough. First of all, you believe that the bad guys of your Bible, because Satan isn't the main bad guy in the Bible. Abraham is, and the children of Abraham are. Your Bible is literally all Jewish fairy tales. All of the characters in the Bible are Jewish, and they literally talk about Gentiles as a separate group of lower class people multiple times. Those Gentiles. Not us, those Gentiles. You believe that the bad guys of your Bible, the people that kill your superhero, your Christian God's only son, are also your Christian God's chosen people, favorite people. Just think about, you believe yourself to be second class in your own belief structure. And if you're not chosen, at least according to the Bible, then you're a slave. So all of you who identify as the slave religion, do you ever question why? Especially when you look at what's happening today in the world, where our tax dollars aren't being used to benefit us. They're being given to a murderous regime that just also happens to be those same chosen people. It's right there in front of your fucking face. You literally have no reason to believe what you believe. It's all just choice. It's arrogant choice. Because there's not a person here that can say that they have debunked Islam and Scientology and Mormonism and Buddhism and Hinduism and you know, all these other things that we don't even know exist. Judaism. You can't say you sat there and debunked everything, but then you got to Christianity and it all just made sense, so you went with it. Not a single one of you says that. You think people subscribe to your idiots? We're just watching you get high and making an ass of yourself. Yep. Whatever it takes. Whatever entertains the monkeys, I guess. Good monkey. Keep commenting, monkey. Do me a favor and like, share, and sub, monkey. You don't like the feed, but you watch it every day. Nothing else in this world would be more entertaining than watching me. Ooh, ow, that hurts my feelings. You could focus on any one thing I'm getting wrong, because all I'm doing is preaching ignorance and not making any sense. So you should easily be able to just pick one thing and make me look like an ass. You're wrong about this because of this. And yet for some reason, some strange reason, you can't seem to do that. Interesting how that works. Oh, look at this shit, man. Taking nonsense. Why come back? Points make prizes. Exactly. What about the mortal error? Do you... No, I don't care. All of my Christian friends deny the whole chosen race thing. Then, again, you're proving my point. You're an arrogant piece of shit then, right? Because you're going to sit here and pretend like you know better than the perpetuators of the myth to begin with. And they're not a race either, by the way. They're not a race. You can't convert to a race. I don't care how you want to stereotypically dress or talk, you're not going to change your race. Can you imagine? Dave Chappelle did a great bit on this, but he was more talking about the trans thing. But imagine if suddenly I was like, okay, you guys, I'm going to start talking all stereotypical and shitty, okay? I'm going to be like this character here, and I want you to call me Chinese. I am Chinese now. Can you imagine somebody trying to do that? Well, I'm going to do some stereotype shit, and now I'm going to claim that me, this big dumb fuck, I'm suddenly Chinese. And if you say I'm not Chinese, you're a bad person. It's impossible, right? Nobody would do that. That's converting to a race. That's impossible. So when there's an option that people can supposedly convert, even black people, Sammy Davis Jr., Nell Carter, black people supposedly converted. They were never treated equally, but they supposedly converted. But see, again, you're going to prove your arrogance, right? What country do you live in? You're probably in Europe. Yep, I sound like I have a European accent, don't I? The fact that still to this day, after being sent to Christian Sunday school, can recite the entire books of the Old Testament by way of a nursery rhyme like song, yet forget the end of the New Test. I admit you're Y-O-U-R speaking nonsense. So you finally admit Y-O-U-R speaking nonsense. Can you imagine being that desperate for the win that somehow you gleaned that from what I'm saying? You have to tell yourself that you're winning so badly that you're making it up. If I'm wrong, why don't they just do the sensible thing, which is tell me what I'm wrong about and how? Why is it always just weird crybaby, I'm in love with you, but I don't want to say it nonsense? Yes, I don't know how to read. You put Y-O-U-R speaking nonsense, and I don't know how to read. It's so funny because all they ever do is dig the hole. Can anybody ever tell me about one of these dumbasses that like actually started getting me and I was like, oh shit, I'm stumbling over myself and man, this person's getting the best of me. Never happened. It can't. You know, it'd be like somebody coming in here and talking about, you know, convincing me Santa Claus is real. Religion is like Santa Claus. Sooner or later, you realize apartments don't have chimneys. Write that down. Kind of narcissistic behavior, what is? What is narcissistic? Oh, you're triggering people by proving how stupid you are. Man, you sure are getting me. Damn, how do I compete with the person that's triggering people by proving how stupid they are? They so obviously want the Genesis Proverbs into us so we knew our place. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's all just ridiculous nonsense. You saying you could never be wrong. Did anybody hear me say I could never be wrong? I mean, I guess when it comes to like, I think what you chose to hear the way you wanted to was me saying I haven't been proven wrong. And really, I don't know how you could prove that Batista Bapé is okay. How you can prove Jesus is real, and how you could do something that hasn't been done yet. Been 2,000 years, been a lot smarter people with a lot more money than you have that have done everything they can to try to prove this shit and fallen short, but you can do it. Oh, crack pipe, sorry. No. Watch your video. Yeah. It's amazing how people hear what they want to hear and respond to the things that apparently trigger them. Because, hearing we should kill pedos, we should overthrow the Jays that control the system, we need to stop the genocide, we need to make the world a better place, that never triggers them. But me saying that they never get anything right, and I literally don't see how I could be wrong about this, especially considering I've been doing this every day for a long time. Instead of telling me what I'm wrong about, it's been nothing but crybaby. So it seems pretty obvious. Narcissistic is writing a comment on a feed and expecting it to sway the entire presentation, perhaps. Right. Narcissistic is thinking that whatever we're talking about, we should stop talking about it because you say we should. Narcissistic is believing or expecting people to believe something even though there's no evidence to support it. Narcissistic definitely isn't asking questions. Narcissistic definitely isn't believing in yourself, isn't being confident based on experience. Never here in the high ground, verbally speaking, and do it to foreign characters, and yep, that's what it is. So what you should do is, instead of trying to make reasonable points or intelligent points, you should just say dumb shit while watching for hours at a time, day after day. Makes so much more sense. There's plenty of evidence to support the existence of Jesus. No, there's not. And again, instead of saying blanket comments like that, why doesn't anybody ever say, well, there's this is the evidence of Jesus, and then there's this is the... Why don't they ever actually bring the argument? Why is it always something stupid? You can't prove you're right. I think I do pretty often. And then you do a good job of backing that up by your inability to prove me wrong about anything. Why do you hate on people because of their religion? Because their cult is based on hate and pedophilia. See, this is what's called answering questions. So when I propose the same thing back to you, and I say, why are you here to begin with? If you don't like this feed, and I'm wrong about everything, why do you come here and avoid it? Avoid actually talking about what's wrong and just try to get my attention. What is your motivation to be here? Let's see if you can answer a question. You look like you have a battle raging in your soul, and the dope isn't helping. Yes, I have a battle raging in my soul. How many narcissists does it take to change a light bulb? Infinity, because they all think somebody else should do it. I'm losing IQ points. Yep, you are, that's for sure. Having a good laugh. That's my motivation. Yep. It looks like you... So now instead of answering the simple question, now we're going to talk about the colors of my shirt. That sounds like a real life person, doesn't it? That sounds like an intelligent person. Anything to avoid answering it. Okay, confirmation of Tacticus, 56 to 117 AD. Oh yeah, well that's fucking proof. Roman historian, that Jesus was executed by order of the Roman governor of Judea, Pontius or Pontius Pilate, during the reign of Tiberius. Oh, well, that's fucking proof right there. You know, I can absolutely prove that all those people existed and the narrative that they give us is true. You know, from 117 AD, which had to be backdated because, you know, and this is that weird part where it's like, how do we know what the historical narrative truly is? When it was whatever year it was in the Diocletian calendar, and then Dionysus just decided it was 525 AD. There was no AD. He's the one that created Anno Domini, or Anno Domini. I looked it up. You were wrong, Karen. Anno Domini. Anno Domini. That's what it was, right? Let's see. Ah. What the fuck? Where is it? Shut your mouth, Jessica. Where? I keep asking you where. Come here. Come here. Bear it and share it, girlfriend.
Anno Domini.
Anno Domini.
Anno Domini.
Anno Domini. He invented it. And they don't even know how he came up with it. And it was all based on Easter tables and crazy shit like that. And how he calculated backwards 500 years, and then it wasn't even really taken seriously until like 745 or something like that, where it sort of gained widespread popularity. So then to sit here and say that they then took all of, you know, they took all of the historical books and made the change in them, because when it was happening, it wasn't 117 AD. That's not what they said. Just like they didn't say it was 32 BC or 300 BC. They didn't say any of that shit. It was something completely different. So to think that some random guy decides this thing based on not wanting, you know, Diocletian, whatever his name was, he was said to persecute Christians. So he didn't want, Dionysus didn't want the calendar to be based on the guy who persecuted Christians' perspective. So he just came up with it being 525. Now keep in mind that the number zero, the concept of zero, was introduced into Europe in 1260. So they didn't even have a zero back then. Which is why there is no year zero. It goes from 1 AD to 1 BC. I mean, it's all really, really stupid. So when you understand that just on the you're giving a date aspect of things, not even arguing about whether you believe these characters really existed or not, but you're just giving dates. You have no idea anything about that shit. You just assume that it's 2025. And most of you assume that AD is after death. Stupid, right? You don't even realize how stupid your own thinking is, because you think 1 BC is before Christ and then 1 AD is after Christ. So his whole thing was in when? When did Christ exist? Good thing it doesn't mean after death, huh? But see, this is how it always works. Note one, they hold the bulb, and the whole world revolves around them. That's true. That's a good one. Austin 3:16. That says I just kicked your ass. Bro, just because some dude on Reddit said it doesn't make it more knowledgeable than actual history. What part am I saying that isn't actual history? Again, suddenly we have all these history majors on here, right? I just put it, man. She is wrong. But that's what it always says. Do you believe George Washington existed? No. No, just more characters were given. The thing is, at this point where I'm at in my journey, I'm not foolish enough to believe that the Empire State Building was built in 400 days in 1931. You might believe that, but I don't. I don't believe that the fifth tallest building was built in Cincinnati to a height of 555 feet 5 inches. The Van Velt Tower, whatever it is. In 1924 to 1927. And really, it was more like 18 months or 16 months because the first 18 months was excavation and whatnot. So in just over a year, they were able to build this magnificent structure. Still exists today. Once you start going down the reset path, once you start squeezing that toothpaste out of the fucking tube, this is the part that's always so interesting to me, and this is the part where I'd love to talk to my lunch break about it. It's like, at what point do you arrogantly decide that the information that you're given is truth? It backs up this, or it backs, like, what part, where does our own arrogance come into play? No zero before Christ, straight into the year of our Lord, hence us being in the 21st century. Do you believe your great-great-great-great-grandfather existed? I have no idea. Great-great-great-grandfather. So that's like 5 generations, right? No. I mean, I have no idea. This is the part of the story where, I don't believe anything that I'm told because my history doesn't tell me about these things. Tartaria was absolutely a thing, and it was a major powerhouse. There is no conspiracy about whether Tartaria existed. It absolutely existed. And yet I never heard about it. I never learned about it in school. And this was a major, major thing. I never learned about ice castles in school. Ice boats and shit like that. What's up, man? How you doing? Good. How many of you... Dude, I finally stopped watching. Swiped 5 times and YouTube brought me back. Well, maybe you're supposed to learn something. But even something like the Nation of Islam, right? How many of you just accepted this idea that the Nation of Islam is this scary black militant organization? This is one of the craziest things that I think I've stumbled onto. So when you look up the Nation of Islam, it was originally founded by a guy called Wallace Fard Muhammad. Now, this is a picture of Netanyahu. This is Wallace Fard Muhammad, the guy that invented the Nation of Islam. If I asked you who invented the Nation of Islam, would you have said it was a guy that looks like a young Netanyahu? Would you have said it was a mysterious character who just sort of appears in 1911 at like 30-something years old? And for some reason, you know, stories of this guy with a completely different name buying a tamale cart back in 1907, 1909. Somehow that is evidence that Wallace Fard Muhammad existed because Fred the Turk bought a fucking tamale cart in Oregon in 1907 and the newspaper clipping still exists. Dude started the Nation of Islam in 1930, and in 1934 he disappeared. He started it here in Detroit. Gave it over to Elijah Muhammad, who was one of his followers for some reason. Though very, very few people can actually attest to seeing this man in person. And again, he just disappears. Nobody knows what happened to him. It's a logical conclusion for your great-great-grandfather to have existed. You existed. Your existence and the existence of your parents is evidence for his evidence. Not necessarily. I mean, until you start looking into the whole Cabbage Patch and incubators and orphan trains and that whole fucking narrative. Until you start looking at the World's Fairs. The World's Fairs have to be one of the like just most incredible aspects of history that most people know nothing about. And what we do know is just a fraction of what exists. I think my favorite part about the World's Fairs is the idea that these gigantic landscapes, buildings and you know, causeways and you know, bridges and just all of this magnificent stuff, that the pictures that you see today are the pictures today. You don't think we could do it. You know, you don't see how we could do it, especially in a 2-year time frame, 18-month time frame. You know, these World Fair cities were said to be erected in this just incredibly short time. And then most of the buildings were made to be plaster and basically like fake. They were supposedly fake buildings meant to be demolished after the fair, except for the few buildings that still exist, which were built to last. All the other buildings around those buildings were built to be destroyed, but then they also happened to build some real life buildings that will last forever, marble and all this crazy shit. In the 1800s. There's just so much of it that just doesn't add up. And the reality is, if the narrative we're given is true, then people like me should be given some sort of platform to be able to answer these questions for ourselves. It's not like a lack of an answer makes the question go away. There are lots of us out here who are questioning these things, who've seen the oldest pictures and videos that exist, showing cities that are clearly already there, that are beyond comprehension and beyond explanation as to how they even exist, and for the most part happen to be empty in the oldest pictures. No people are seen anywhere. You know, the evidence is all there. There's no, you know, the conspiracy is what you believe. We're clearly not being told the truth. But again, you know, I'm wrong, I'm crazy, history is telling us the truth, the system is telling us the truth, just not with Oswald. Just not with the assassination of a fucking United States president. That's the one time they're lying, even though they don't admit it, but you're smart enough to see that they're lying on that one, so that must mean they're lying on that one. All the other stuff, if I say it is, or I point out stuff that you can't answer, it doesn't matter. You believe it because you believe the system. You see where the arrogance comes in? What do I think happened to Wallace Fard Muhammad? I have no idea. All I know is that's clearly a Jewish man. I don't know what else you want to say. I've got to say, as a Scot Brit, it's one of those two nations divided by common language situations, but we've always been aware that in the U.S. it's an extremely common use of BC. What was your previous comment? I don't know what you mean. It's an extremely common use of BC use. Even if you're right about everything, does it even matter? What can you do? Well, I know that what I'm doing seems to terrify the system. And I know that the only way we can make change is if the Goyim see themselves like they see themselves. See, if we see ourselves like they see themselves. It doesn't matter what color they are or where they're from. If they're them, they're them. And the rest of us are just Goy. So until we see ourselves as this one Goy system that's being used and abused and taken advantage of and tricked into hating each other, well, they're going to continue to take advantage. And the reality is we could all be living a much better life. We could all be living a Jetsons-like life. They just don't want us to. Because if we did, it's not about money. They print money. People say follow the money. They fucking print the money. The money isn't there for them to have it. The money is there for us not to have it. It's the carrot on the stick that you'll never get. You'll get hit with that stick though. Pow-pow. Get it, pow-pow. Money isn't there for them. It's there for us not to have. It's there for us to want it. But the thing that would happen if nobody had to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week to just barely get by, if machines did most of the labor and shit and we just all existed in this harmonious atmosphere, is the group that says they're born superior and that we should all be their slaves, they should all have 2,800 Gentile slaves, the group that's committing genocide, the group that's been more associated with pedophilia than anyone else throughout all of history and has, pedophilic rituals as their foundation. Brit Milah, the cutty slicey sucky, is their number one thing. It's one of the number one things. Nothing else is more important than this mitzvah. This is pedophilic. This is disgusting. And then if you look at all the other, like I said, go read the Bottom of Darkness article in Israel Hayom. The accusations haven't been so consistent for all of recorded history because it's fake. It's one thing when it's the thing you're supposed to believe. That could be fake. But the thing you're not supposed to ask any questions about, the thing you're not supposed to question. I thought that was your garage door at first, man. And then it can't. I wish you would turn that off. Baby, 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 baby. I don't know if you guys can hear that shit. I'm sure you can. They have your best interest in heart. No, they don't. You know only thousands of Jays passed in World War II, not millions. Absolutely. If that. You know, and the thousands that did pass, passed because of the bombing of the supply lines. The hollow hoax is just that. There were only 3 million of them in Europe at the time, and most of them escaped here. It's just a story. ADU, sorry. Gold and silver were the real currency, and bills were made for control. I mean, see, the thing is you have to change it. Why would gold and silver be currency? These are shiny rocks that are found. And whoever supplies the shiny rocks, whoever owns the supply of the shiny rocks, controls things. Why isn't contribution currency? Especially in a world where we have the means, the technology, and the resources for machines to do the vast majority of the shit work. For no one to have to work. There'll still be plenty of people who want to work, and there's nothing wrong with that. There'll be plenty of jobs for those people. Or even if everybody still has to work, well, now the jobs that are left over, we all split. And instead of working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, you work 2 to 3 hours a week, 3 to 4 days a week. That way you're fresh, you're at your best at all times, everybody gets a chance to work. You know, we have to eliminate the money structure, but, you know, why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we be living in some sort of utopia by now? Every historical anything ever has always said that by now we would be in this utopia, right? How is Mossad affecting you in any shape or form? Don't pretend you care. Well, I do. The idea that there are children being slaughtered. See, you're probably a J piece of shit. So, like, imagine if it was J children that were being killed. Then you would care, right? Well, I'm not like that. The idea that children and just people in general are being starved to death and having bombs dropped on them, that keeps me up at night. That bothers the shit out of me. I don't have to be involved in something for it to bother me. The fact that not just children, people are being raped and abused in Hollywood and have been since the beginning, of which you guys control. And the best film ever made is called Hollywoodism. I suggest everybody watch it. That link will be in the description of this video. But it's the video where they acknowledge that they control Hollywood. They created it. They don't say how they created it, but that they created it, and they run it with an iron fist and with nepotism, and you know they continue to control it, and they use it to create the narrative they want us to live. At one point, a woman, one of the descendants of the moguls, says, essentially, you could say that the American dream is the Jewish dream, because they used Hollywood to create the reality that they wanted. So that means our history, our government, our everything is created through Hollywood. But, you know, look at my road. Look at the road. Look how fucked up the road is. If you could see the piping underneath all of these houses, the fucked up infrastructure that exists in just everywhere, you know, that all needs to be redone. We have no business giving our tax dollar, having our tax dollars stolen from us and given to Israel at the tune of a lump sum cash payment of $3.8 billion in the first fiscal month of every year. No stipulations, no strings attached, just here's your $3.8 billion. I hope you're happy. And that's just a small portion of the money that they actually get each year from us. That $3.8 billion turns into 15 billion shekels. Yeah, there is, I am directly affected by it, but more so the indirectly, I'm indirectly, directly affected by it. Because no, it's not my family, it's not my children, it's not anything like that that are being killed. But I still feel for them. I'm not a piece of shit like you. The day you become immortal, why? And join John Cena, blah, blah, blah. I was raised by the sun like you. You can't eat gold, it's only good for apple tomorrow. No sun, no apple. There you go. If you don't care about another group of people being starved and genocided because you don't have any direct association with it, then yes, you're a piece of shit. If you identify as a Christian and you don't make it your life's work to rid your belief structure of the pedophile element that is so fucking prominent, you're a piece of shit. You turn a blind eye to the fact that your group consistently gets caught raping children and does nothing about it, and you don't have something to say, you still give your money every fucking week, you're contributing. You're a piece of shit. You might not like it. You can change it if you wanted to, but you don't want to because you're a piece of shit. If you're not doing everything that is reasonably in your power to make the world a better place, if that only means sharing my video, you know, whatever it means. I don't expect everybody to do what I'm doing. I know how difficult what I'm doing is. I know not everybody is capable of talking like this. I know not everybody is a, quote, leader, and lots of people are, quote, followers. That's okay. As long as you follow the right thing, you support the right thing, you're good.
How did she get it so down? Oh, good. All right. So
You're asking, not doing everything in your power to make the world a better place. You need to eat some humble pie. Well, I'm definitely trying to. And within my power means, what am I capable of doing while not, sacrificing any more of my family and family time than I already do? So yeah, I probably could be giving every last cent I have to the system, but then that would create different problems. And I'm not trying to create different problems. I'm trying to fix it all. And really, the truth is, I'm just bringing you guys on my own personal journey. My goal is to be the best me I can be. And the only way I can be the best me I can be, I always compare it to boxing, right? If I'm a championship boxer, I don't want to be surrounded by people that consistently tell me, oh, everything you're doing is great, champ. You're great, champ. No work to be done, champ. You're great, champ. What I want is those eagle-eyed people around me that will say, hey, when you're throwing your cross and you're coming back, You're dropping your hand an inch too much. It's going to leave you open. When you pull back, you got to raise that hand just a little bit more. And this is something I've done my whole career, but they finally picked it up. They finally saw it. And for all we know, the people I'm fighting next saw that hole too. And they were working their whole camp on how to exploit that hole. Figured out every way possible to exploit that hole. They were gonna knock me out. If not for that eagle-eyed fucking non-ass kisser on my team who told me I was doing something wrong. I look at this as practice. That one day I might be in a position to where I can say these same things in a much bigger arena. And when I do, I don't want my little thing to be exploited there. So if there's something that I'm getting wrong, like anno domini or however, who knows? Like, that could be how it's said in Scotland. Maybe it's said differently in other forms of English. You Scottish, you say some crazy shit. But like, if I'm getting something wrong, I don't want people to be able to exploit it. I'm going to put myself out here to the best of my ability. And if there's something I'm getting wrong, by all means, if you can find that hole, exploit it. Make me look as dumb as you can possibly make me look. I'm not insecure. I'm not shallow. I'm not you. It won't result in, me crying and attacking. Your beard is stupid, and your hair is stupid, and you smoke crack, and all the same shit. I might have a response. Just because you say I'm wrong about something doesn't mean I'm going to go, oh, okay, you're right, I'm wrong. But if you can convince me that I'm wrong about something, well, then somebody else will be able to as well, and I don't want that to happen. I'm sure I'm wrong about, the square root of 224. I wouldn't even know how to do that. I do know that the square root of 69 is 8 something. But what the fuck? Be the best bullshitter. Yup, that's what happens. When I'm saying, tell me what I'm wrong about, it's because I'm bullshitting and I'm trying to avoid it. That's how that works. Yeah, make us look dumb. I don't talk words personally. Or I don't take words personally. Yeah. It says talk. I agree, we will disagree, but trust. I never agree to disagree with anyone. That's not how it works. When people say let's agree to disagree, it's because they've run out of arguments and they're not big enough to admit it. But there is no agree to disagree. Somebody's right, somebody's wrong. I tend to think when people get to the agree to disagree part, they realize they're wrong. They just don't want to acknowledge it. No compromise necessary. I don't even know what you're talking about. But if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. I'll acknowledge if I'm wrong. Yep. See, again, I love how people will keep saying same dumb shit. Like, what am I wrong about and how? Why is that so difficult for people? I'm looking back at this dude's comments, and there's just the Chronicles of the Mentally Ill Man. He's proud of those trees. Speed, like, it's just, this is the shit I'm supposed to take seriously? You're right for the most part. Okay, again. Okay, so I got great punching power, great speed, great footwork. for the most part means I'm dropping my hand. I'm taking too big a step. I'm doing something. So what part am I wrong about? It shouldn't be so difficult. I always think that's just so crazy. People act like, because most people take it so personally. Most people get really upset when they lose or when they're proven wrong. Like, I like losing. That means I have an opportunity to get better. I just don't understand why people have such a hard time with hearing that they're wrong about something. Or the people that do say it think that just because they said that somebody's wrong, the person should just agree with them. Never mind if I have arguments to back up my side of things. You just said I was wrong, so I should believe it. Let's see. This submarine thing. Can you tell me what I'm wrong about? Submarine, yeah. Again, if you really were interested in submarines, you would go watch the first 9 parts. You watch me every day for hours. Why would it matter? You watch every day for hours at a time. So go watch the previous one, the previous 9 parts. Recently, I did a one about submarines. I tried to do it for like 2 days in a row. And for some reason, nobody wanted to talk about them. And then when it comes to this conversation, you know nothing. They are my words. You can hear them. Parts 1 through 9 isn't anybody else. Matter of fact, most of the things you watch on YouTube, good morning, most of the things you watch on YouTube, you watch in thank you.
Have a good day.
You too, in the past tense. You don't watch live feeds. So go watch the videos where I actually delve into it. At the end of the day, it's not a conversation you can have. You know nothing about submarines. You know nothing about their history. You know nothing about how they work other than very, very basic things that you'll say, like ballast tanks. Yet you don't know how they work. I'm not saying you're here to bash. I'm saying if you were really interested in the conversation, you would go watch it. You wouldn't want me to stop what I'm doing right now and talk about something else. Especially if I've already given a like that argument isn't going to change too much. Keep making it is sort of pointless. But if you really did give a shit about submarines, especially more than the chosen shit, the pedophiles, all that stuff, then you'd go watch the previous videos. I know way more about submarines than you. Worked on one for 25 years. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. You a big Rickover fan then, are you? Just stupid shit. And it's based on stupid shit. It's all just stupid. But again, it's the same stupid as everything else. You believe in submarines because you believe Oswald shot Kennedy. You're told to. The idea of some submarine enthusiast searching through the YouTubes to find my feed and be like, hey, this guy doesn't think submarines are real. What the hell? It's just fucking silly. And to think like if I'm talking about these kinds of things, or I'm talking about you know, religious stuff and control shit and the J's and blah blah blah. Let's just say this was a submarine conversation that drifted into this conversation. Well, this is what we're talking about. Your rest of your bullshit doesn't matter. Catch the submarine conversation. I think the best argument for submarines, I'll make the quick one, is simple. You guys want to know what my best argument is? You ready? That's my best argument. This 200-pound body that is 70% water, and then the rest of it is like dense bones and muscles and, you know, all kinds of shit that doesn't float. Very little body fat, especially as, you know, a younger man. All it takes is that much air, and this 200-pound body will float. As a matter of fact, this 200-pound body can't stay on the bottom, will consistently rise, can't stay underwater without letting out air. So, worth of air keeps this, you know, and that air makes up the size of these letters in my chest. We're not talking about my whole body fills with air. Worth of air keeps my 200-pound body that's 70% water and bones and all that other shit floating. If that's not enough for you to start questioning things, then take a 2-liter to the beach with you next time you go, or to a pool. Put the cap on the 2-liter and see how easy it is for you to sink that thing. I know my 200-pound body will float because of it. I could stick it under my arms and I'll float. I could use it as a way to save myself if I was capsized. But hey, right? None of that matters. I do, and I have. But my belief in submarines pales in comparison. If I'm going to reach somebody that's here, I want them to know that it's okay for them to talk bad about the chosen. I want them to know that as Goyim we should be unifying if we want answers to any of these questions. Like, I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity I have. I don't understand the comment section, right? I always look at it like, I watched the 700 Club and I hated it. But I liked watching it because I wanted to know what the opposition thought. And it was funny. A lot of it was just funny to watch. But if I would have had the opportunity to talk directly to Pat or Gordon or Wendy or any of them, I wouldn't have, you know, I wouldn't be like, well, your haircut's stupid. Well, let's talk about something, you know, some fringe thing. Why do you wear that suit? Why do you like that color tie? You know, if I had the opportunity to talk to one of those people, I would be grilling them about the fundamental points that they're trying to get through. And for me, talking about the religions that dominate our lives, the cults that dominate our lives, the insane pedophile problem, the genocide that's happening right fucking now. Like, that shit is so much more important. And you would think those people would be, you know, quick to engage in those kinds of subjects instead of these goofy topics all the time. People concerned about subs more than our country being dismantled from within. Exactly. I was on the USS Hyman Rickover. I bet you were. Let the air out. I've seen a person make a mini sub model using a bottle. Did that sub go 300 meters down where there are billions and billions of pounds of water trying its damnedest to crush that thing? What about the fish? Yeah, well, fish aren't us. Fish aren't metal tubes. Fish are designed for that. However, if you take a fish that's from the top and bring it down to the bottom, it doesn't have a good time. I can send you videos of me in a sub. Sure you can. Sure, let me give you my number. Why don't you just... I tell you guys this all the time. If you really want to prove me wrong, just make videos titled Guy Williams Sucks. You make a Guy Williams Sucks video and you show us the... Because you're gonna show us the inside of a military sub. Yeah, makes sense. Because proving some jackass on Facebook or on YouTube wrong is worth all that government secrecy bullshit. Yeah. Show me the videos. If you're gonna send me videos of staged fucking shit, well, I don't give a fuck. I've seen it. I've YouTubed it many times. YouTube submarines underwater and see what you can find. Not gonna be very much. Definitely not gonna be anything convincing. My favorite part is how inside the subs, the people never seem to be affected by any of it. They're not like, whoa. You know, no motion, no waves, no nothing. They can even crash through ice and they're unaffected by it. They don't move even slightly. Crashing through ice with the top part, you know, where the fucking sensitive instruments are and shit. It's fucking stupid. It's all fucking stupid. We aren't supposed to understand because we all know, because we will know all in death. Some arrogant shit there. It's distracting with other days. This guy has been one of those people who thinks the world is flat. Don't think the world's flat. Definitely don't think it's a ball flying through space. But see, the funny thing is, why does that make so many people so angry? This isn't the guy that goes, this guy probably thinks that genocide's bad because genocide's terrible. We need to stop the genocide. This guy's like, man, this guy thinks the world is flat and I have fucking investments in roundworld.com. Can't have people thinking the earth is flat because that really upsets me. It's the strangest thing, man. Thoughts on 9/11? Israel did it. The zombie apocalypse is real. Yep. It's amazing to me how many people believe in that shit, though. Zombies. Reanimated dead flesh. But you've been told to believe in zombies your whole life. All of you Christians believe in zombies. Your favorite zombie is Zombie Jesus. You know? You believe that, like, you have no concept of death. When mammals die, they start decaying immediately. They start breaking down and shit. The flesh becomes liquidy inside. It's just disgusting.
Clear backpack that has 140.
It's just disgusting. Right? But it's such a stupid distraction. There are so many more people that believe in zombie apocalypse than understand the idea that Israel controls the United States. It's fucking wild. Yeah, plenty of videos out there. Sure there are. There are plenty of videos of boats on top of the water. There are plenty of videos, supposedly, on the inside of subs when they're underwater. videos of submarines in the water, underwater, very few. The one main one that you'll see is obviously a fucking model. It's obviously a model. But you're supposed to believe it's real. Remember, nuclear-powered submarines were invented in 1952-ish. Their need was expressed. They decided that they needed nuclear-powered submarines in 1952, and within a few years, they built one, which is a nuclear power plant condensed down into the so it can fit inside a submarine, as well as all the people and shit, along with a desalination plant, because you can't use salt water in a nuclear power plant for whatever reason. In the 50s, they were capable of creating this kind of technology. Go back and look at what 50s cars, airplanes, boats. Go look at what that shit looked like. When you're talking about a nuclear power plant as well as a desalination plant, I mean, that's going to require a lot of computers. Go look at what computers look like in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 70s. The Concorde in 1969 was said to be the first aircraft to be totally flown by computers. The only thing the pilots did was takeoff and landing. What computer systems did they have in 1969? I mean, weren't computers big giant rooms with big boxes that had flashing lights on them and reel-to-reels on them and shit? Wasn't that what computers looked like? Go look at the old pictures of NASA from that same time. All the computing stations they have and all that stuff. Oh, a so-called submarine document. I would never. Besides, I don't know what's happening. Once I'm locked in the thing, they could say anything. Hey, right. The Hunt for Red October. Great movie. If you think we have giant vessels the size of 80 school buses that can do that shit, you know, more power to you. Will Hamas allow you to aid Palestine? Hamas is Israel. If you think that Hamas is why the people aren't getting food, you're not paying attention. Another one of those things there are plenty of videos of is settlers stopping the supply chains, putting rocks in front of the trucks, knocking the supplies off the back of the trucks, destroying them. Yeah, there's not videos of Hamas doing it. And even if there is, it's just as stupid as you believing that Hamas on October 7th attacked with paragliders. And for all of you that don't believe it, a couple months later, Hamas released a video on Hamas.com showing them practicing with paragliders. Just in case people weren't believing the narrative that Israel was presenting us, Hamas wanted to back that up. Come on. Hamas is Al-Qaeda. Hamas is ISIS. Do you guys remember 2023 sometime? maybe 2024, I guess. When it had to be 2024. I mean, it might have been the latter part of might have been December or something of 2020 thing, but it's early 2024. When out of nowhere, ISIS just shows up to attack a Russian theater and 126 people die, and ISIS did it, ISIS did it, ISIS did it. ISIS hasn't been seen or heard of in 10 fucking years, but ISIS comes out of nowhere to attack a Russian fucking theater and kills 126 rich people, I guess. Well, that same day, Israel attacked 2 separate hospitals. 2 separate hospitals were attacked because of the tunnels that never get shown. And instead of people talking about Israel attacking the fucking hospitals, we were all, ISIS is back. Fucking ISIS. And then ISIS disappeared. We haven't heard from ISIS since. Yep, I can go book a private submarine trip. You got it. If you want to talk about submarines, maybe I'll do it in a day or 2. But go watch the first ones. Just debunk what's said. Just debunk what's said. How many people honestly believe the first submarine was made in 1620? Think about what you think 1620 looked like. How come you guys don't know who Cornelius Drebbel was? Unless you've been on my feed, you have no idea who Cornelius Drebbel is. And he makes Ben Franklin look like Ben Dover. I can't say it straight every time because I've already said it, and I hate saying jokes like that more than once. But it's a funny one. I have to admit, it's a funny one. Cornelius Drebbel is one of the greatest people in all of history. He, according to the narrative, the official narrative that's given, was said to be able to make it thunder and lightning on command. Can you tell me any other person in history that was said to be able to make it thunder and lightning on command? This guy invented the submarine in 1620. Could carry 16 passengers, could travel between 12 and 14 feet underwater, could go for long distances, stay underwater for 3 hours at a time, some shit like that. And interestingly, the military, the crown at the time, didn't see any use in the technology, so it disappeared for 100 years. Does that make fucking sense to you? Just skipping through all that shit. It was made out of wood, yes. Made out of wood and covered in leather, apparently. And then, the only submarine that works up until the 1900s with the German U-boats, supposedly, is a submarine that was made in 1850 that could go 150 feet down, stay underwater for as many as 3 hours, and had a hatch on the bottom that could open so they could harvest oysters and shit like that. So, of course, my question is, how did they fucking regulate the pressure inside the submarine so they could open the hatch? Who was the first one to do it? Like, all right, they say we can open this hatch and we won't die. Like, are you sure? Yeah, that's what they say. What happens if the sub tips even like a little bit like this or that? Yeah, it'll be fine. How are you even showing me stuff? Because it's 1850 and we don't have lights yet. So what can we even see 150 feet down in the water, especially inside of our little box? And it said that because they didn't understand the idea of the bends and decompression and shit, that the people got sick. So they just abandoned the submarine off the coast of the Bahamas or some shit like that. I can't remember which one it was. They had a submarine in 1850 that could go 150 feet down, stay underwater for 3 hours, open a hatch, and they could see. Yes. Yes. Go look into it. Tell me why would I be making, where would I even begin to make these things up? And this is in 1850. And then, like I say, all the other attempts that they give you, they talk about submarines, they always failed. The turtle, the Civil War sub, that shaped like an acorn, that was steered with his butt cheeks, that the rudder, I guess he used his butt cheeks to use the rudder. Just go look it up. You tell me that shit's even possible. It's fucking stupid. It's so stupid that any attempts to replicate it have failed. Right? It's all just stupid, guys. And it's the same people that are telling you that this shit is real, that this is the history, that Oswald shot Kennedy. It's the same people telling you to believe in Jesus, be a Christian. Don't be one of the chosen, be a Christian. So you think we're the chosen. And the thing is, you either believe all of it or you don't. You're not arrogant enough to say that you are capable of picking and choosing which narratives are true and which ones aren't. That's the step. Once you understand how arrogant you've been made to be, I'm sure none of you want to acknowledge that you're super arrogant. So once you understand that you can't pick and choose, what are you basing your choices on? It's all the same information. It's all the same people, the same sources, the same everything is telling you to pick. Oswald shot Kennedy. The Arabs did 9/11. Insert third thing. They tell you to believe all that shit. Most of the time, you're too smart to believe it. How many of you ran out and got every single shot and booster that they told you to get? I would guarantee most of you didn't because you were like, no way, this is getting out of hand. I'm not taking it yet. I've already taken 4. Don't these things work? Seems like every time I take the booster, 2 weeks later, I'm really fucking sick. Isn't that weird? How many of you did that? I'm the last arrogant man in the world. The least arrogant. No, you are. You're so arrogant that you would say that. That's a level of arrogance that, again, I'm the least arrogant man in the world. It's a very arrogant thing to say. How many of you don't believe that we went to the moon? Don't believe in space travel? The James Webb Space Telescope? That fucking load of shit. You have the wherewithal to think that it's impossible to travel through space with modified airplanes, but yet you think we can travel through billions and billions of pounds of water? What are you, crazy? Do you have any concept of how, like, have you ever swam to the bottom of like a 12-foot, a 15-foot, a 30-foot deep pool? Your head feels like it's going to implode. It's like, it's so much pressure. Your ears pop and all this other shit. Same thing that happens when you take off on a plane, surprisingly. Can you imagine how much pressure it is 100 feet down? 100 meters down? 300 meters down? Do you believe a man can fly through air just like a jet? I can see that. I can absolutely see it. It's not a question. It's relatively easy, especially considering there's no such thing as gravity. You want to see gravity disproven right in front of your face? There you go. There's no force pulling my hair back down towards the center of the earth. Gravity would have to be the most intelligent force on the earth, to exist, to know how much pressure it needs to hold billions of gajillions of fulfillions of millions of pounds of water on a spinning ball traveling at 1,000 miles per hour at its equator and spinning around the earth at 67,000 miles per hour. Gravity knows exactly, and gravity makes the planets spin around each other and shit, but then makes the water stick to the planet. And yet, look, the bee's flying up. Gravity goes, oh wait, that's a bee, let the bee fly. Even though, according to science, bees defy all logic in their ability to fly. There's a magic force pulling everything down. Gravity makes things stick and makes things revolve. Totally makes sense. The amount of gravity that would be pulling down on a... I mean, you start looking into aircraft, right? And the average the biggest aircrafts weigh like almost 1 million pounds. That's empty. Once you put the 68,000 gallons of liquid fuel into the wings, now we're talking about almost double the weight. And you believe that shit's just sloshing around, just flying, like, oh, it's so stupid. We've just been tricked into believing such stupid shit in every sense of the word. Gravity doesn't affect flies, butterflies, mosquitoes, or bees, and seeds, and birds, and all those things. And well, it does affect them when they land on the ground, right? It's what keeps them grounded when they're grounded. But as soon as they fly away, or the lizard that can stick to the tree, go up the tree even upside down, yeah, gravity's pulling that thing down, but it's just doing it. I was a mechanic in the United States airline. The fuel consumption hoax is real. There you go. I mean, again, it's one thing to believe somebody who is saying, I'm going against the narrative, because that takes balls. It's another thing to believe somebody that's telling you to believe the narrative. But the whole jet fuel thing is fucking stupid. Look up what a 68,000 gallon tank looks like. And you tell me how all of that is fitting inside the wings of a plane. You know, at 7.2, what is it? How much does the jet fuel weigh? Jet fuel is heavier than regular fuel. 6.7 pounds per gallon. .7 to 6.8 pounds per gallon. So that means 68,000 times 6.7. We'll go 6.7 just to be conservative. That means 455,600 pounds of fuel is inside that plane that's flying around. That weighs more than that. Bunker fuels, our skies from the oceans are the lungs of our planet. Sure. Oh, God damn it. doesn't matter what we're talking about. When you look into the history of it, it's hard to see it as truth. When you just start breaking it down and looking at it just naturally, normally, it's hard to believe it's true. And then when you, especially when it comes to history, and you understand that, like, there was this golden time of basically, you know, before the Depression and then during the Depression years, where skyscrapers were being built left and right, all through actually the late 1800s and shit, all up through the 30s, where these huge skyscrapers were being built everywhere. And there's no construction photos. There's no, you know, there's no real documentation of any of it. There's no, you know, and the narratives you're given about these things just don't make sense. There's a guy who was talking to a John Cena chat GPT, and he was talking about the Yankee Stadium, original Yankee Stadium, and how it was said to have been built in a year. And he was asking ChatGPT, like, how much it would take, how many horses it would take, how much time it would take. And by the end of it, ChatGPT is saying there's absolutely no way that you could build that building in a year's time with the material. Like, the narrative can't be true, while also saying the narrative is true. And it ends up getting so mad at him that it just shuts off. But he gets it to acknowledge that it's impossible for the old Yankee Stadium to be built the way they said it was built. It was there, no doubt. Was it there from when they said it was there, or was it a lot older than that? We're just told a narrative. Jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams, that's for true. Dr. Judy Wood is right when it comes to the towers. But to me, the 9/11, the towers, especially Tower 7, the thing that we're supposed to focus on is the distraction. The real story of 9/11 is the Pentagon. Rumsfeld the night before said that they had lost $2.3 trillion. The next day, the offices that were investigating that $2.3 trillion are the ones that got hit by the plane, the impossible, absolutely impossible plane that's wings folded in on itself, tail section folded in on itself, and it crumpled itself down to fit into a hole much smaller than the plane said to have hit it. There are cameras everywhere. This is G.I. Joe's wettest dream. Not only are there cameras everywhere, there are all sorts of defense mechanisms, guns, missile systems, all that hidden underneath the ground that will come out to defend the #1 military base in the United States. And yet, all those cameras, all fucking 100-some cameras were confiscated. We've only seen 2 views that show nothing, where the date is wrong on one of them. I'm to believe that the toll booth camera that they showed us, that for some reason the date said 9/12. The highest security military base in the world doesn't have the proper dating on its fucking security cameras. How is that even possible? How are all these cathedrals we can't duplicate today, built with no power tools, with horses and carts, the dark, right, supposedly, I mean, it's horses, castles, the castles, the cathedrals, the monuments. Go fucking look in India. What we think of as like fantastic, being the pyramids, in India's fucking landscape, Budapest in particular, it is so far beyond what is capable today. There are things called stepwells, where they're like inverted pyramids that are geometrically precise and apparently aren't affected by earthquakes. You know, like, this is something everybody not only can do, but they've already experienced in their life. If you've been downtown, in any major downtown in the United States, or you've traveled abroad, whatever, You've seen the oldest church in your area. You've seen one of the megalithic churches that exist just in your area alone that was supposedly built in either the early 1800s or late 1700s. Sometimes they're built as late as the 1900s, but very few. And you stood there and looked at it and thought, how the fuck did they do this? How is this even possible? But then you've just gone, oh, well, they did it. It's here, so blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Michelangelo just sat on his back and painted the Sistine Chapel all by himself, while doing a shit ton of other things because he was one of those old polymaths that could do everything. I looked up the United plane on September 13th in our maintenance computer program. There were no records, which means it didn't exist. 23 is one of their favorite numbers. 33 is another. I looked up the United plane on September 13th on our maintenance computer program. There were no records, which means it didn't exist. I'm a no plane guy altogether. I don't believe in the plane thing. We were clearly shown something. And you know it because the live footage shows the nose of the plane go through the fucking building. Then every camera that was looking at it at that moment all went black for a second, which was like 15 frames in the scheme of things. And then it came back and the explosion happened. The nose of the plane didn't go through the fucking building. I've seen other angles. Didn't happen. It did on the live feed. And not just the nose, like the whole cockpit. It's all bullshit. It's all just bullshit. And if you have somebody that says I was a fucking mechanic and I looked the shit up, again, it's either somebody who's got some weird reason to lie, or, you know, it is what it is. You gotta take it with a grain of salt. Interestingly, this person happens to have not just some bullshit, letter as their thing. They have 7 subscribers. There's something there. It's not the standard fake profile. It still might be. It still might be one of these things where, like, we told you that if we agree with you, then you'll agree with us. It could be. But like I say, it's one thing to agree with the system. You're agreeing with a system that doesn't have evidence to back it. When somebody's going against the system, essentially putting themselves in danger, there's something else going on here. Well, according to the narrative, there was only like one person, 1 or 2 people that can literally say they saw and heard a plane. I had a guy come on here on my feed on Facebook once, and he said that he and his sister both worked in the building at the time. And he said he heard no planes. And he came on my feed and he gave this really like in-depth testimonial. He was all smacked out, which made it difficult, but it doesn't negate what he was saying. But he said, like, the first plane hit, they went, and he was in that building, and they evacuated, they came out, he ran down, his sister worked in the second building. He went to go see her. As they were standing there outside, all of a sudden the explosion just happened. There was no, And then, that dude just disappeared. And months later, he reappeared and was like, yeah, I saw myself on your video and I thought I looked like a junkie, and I went and checked myself into rehab, and just a weird, and then he never spoke about that shit again. He just turned into this hornball character who would always just post these like goofy memes and like shit that if I posted it, my feed would get blocked. But it was just all sex from then on. The person who talked about 9/11 didn't exist anymore. Strange. Right, you think subs are real because you want to. That's it. again, the government is lying. You're flat out saying that the government, the history, the system is lying about 9/11, is lying about Lee Harvey, but they're telling you the truth about the submarines that can exist in an impossible environment. Okay, dude. None of the first interviewers said shit about planes, just hearing explosives. Right. But even still, it's the Pentagon that's the story. You know, the Pentagon is the one that everybody needs to pay attention to. Although there's just so much evidence. 9/11 is, the thing about the conspiracy theory is that the conspiracy theory addresses a lot more shit and makes a lot more sense than the narrative we're given. And if you can actually remember back to 2006, I believe, when PBS put out the first real documentary that was about the NIST report. And it was this big thing. It was broadcast all over. This is what they're going to finally do it. They're going to finally do it. They showed in their Atari computer model, they were going with the pancake theory at the time. And with their computer model, it showed the pancake theory happening, but the core column was still standing there in the computer model. Obviously, the narrative wasn't true. But that's, you know, you can only talk about it, in my mind, if you're willing to take the Israel, if you're willing to talk about Israel. You might not agree, but as long as you're willing to talk about it and don't go, oh, you can't say that, then the conversation can be had. Underground tunnels are there as well. The gold was in Building 7, not Fort Knox. Well, that's that one thing that nobody talks about. It used to be something that even the truthers, but none of the truthers even talk about it anymore. That there were trucks full of gold seen leaving the military trucks full of gold being seen leaving the complex just before all the brouhaha went down. Which, I mean, they had to have been loading the trucks all night. You couldn't just load those trucks within the hour. Oh, hey, what's up, dude? You finally decided to get up? Would you do it again? Let's see. The measuring stick. No, not really. How'd you sleep, bub?
Alright, I woke up, but I didn't want to wake up.
It's only noon.
I woke up, but I didn't want to wake up because I had to pee, so I went pee and then went back to bed. And then I just kept sleeping.
That's how that works. There are underground tunnels everywhere that shouldn't exist. When you look into the subway system, New York subway, from conception in 1894 to opening in 1904, it took 10 years for them to conceive it, design it, dig it out, lay all the tracks, put the machines down there, build it. You know, it's not possible. How do you build a whole bunch of tunnels underneath something that's holding up all these buildings to begin with? Gazillions of pounds worth of building. 1948 Balfour Declaration in Rochester. No, not the Balfour Declaration is like 1916. 1948 is the Nakba. It's when the Balfour Declaration came into fruition. But the Balfour Declaration is only the Balfour Declaration to hide the fact that it's the Rothschild Declaration. They just couldn't make it so obvious, so they made it Balfour Declaration. But the Balfour Declaration is what, you know, got World War I going. The goal of World War I, the main purpose of World War I was, one, to destroy all the old world buildings and shit. But two, to put the British in charge of Palestine. So Palestine became British Mandate Palestine. And for the next 30 years, the Palestinian people were lulled to sleep. They became completely dependent on the Brits. Their military, they didn't have their own military. They didn't even have their own government. The Brits did all that. Don't worry about it. And they were provided a pretty decent life, so they were distracted. They didn't think too much of it. Then when World War II happened, and the excuse was now given that for something that supposedly happened in Germany, hundreds, thousand miles away, the Palestinians now have to pay the price for it. And they were initially given the opportunity to give up 56.4% of their land and be happy with 44.4 or whatever it was. And for some reason, they didn't just take the deal because they weren't willing for peace. They didn't want to work with the Israelis. They didn't want to just give up their land for nothing. There was no like benefit. They were just going to give up their land. 56% of their land, they were just going to give it up. And because they said no, well, then they lost 86% of their land. It's all right there. None of it's a secret. None of it's a secret. Who controls the world is not a secret. We all know it, from young to old. Ask any of your grandparents in an honest setting who controls the world, who controls Hollywood, who controls the money, who controls the government, who controls the world. And if they're honest, they'll tell you. It's the well poisoners. It's the blood libelers. It's the Samson option. It's Operation Cast Thy Bread. You know that the first operation in the Israeli to establish Israel, because it's always interesting because they say that like in 1948 the Israelis invaded and took over Palestine. But Israel didn't exist. So how were there Israelis? Couldn't have been the Israelis. All they did was have the Brits turn around. The Americans turned around, and now they were the ones enforcing this bullshit. But one of the first towns, the first takeovers of the Nakba was the town of Acre. And in order to facilitate the easy takeover, Ben Gurion, along with the other guy, I can't remember all the names. Sanctioned, enacted Operation Cast Thy Bread, in which the Israelis poisoned the drinking water system of the people of Acre. And so when they attacked them, they were all sick with had diarrhea, and they were all sick because their water system had been poisoned. It's not one of the stories that gets talked about very often. And at the same time, they are pretty much the only ones in history. Like, there are a couple of other stories, but for the most part, the idea of poisoning a drinking water system that's going to affect all of the people, the women, the children, the soldiers alike, that's just something they do. That's something they've been doing in Palestine, in the West Bank, and different regions this whole time. The accusations have been there. It's just who controls the news, right? Anyway, I'm done. I can't believe I went this long. The reason, I'll give you a secret. So yesterday I fell asleep at like 8 o'clock. So this is the most rested I've been in a very long time. Of course I'm going to pay for it now, but go get your free download. Look into the description. Look into the description. The description of this video will have the link to the website where you can download the music for free. Click download, it'll ask you how much you want to pay. You click 0 and you're good to go. If you want to donate, we really appreciate it. www.the-bilderberg, BILDERBERG-group.com. It's free to listen to, free to download. All we ask is that you share it with someone. Just share it with one other person or more. I'm going to leave you with a link to Hollywoodism, which is the most important film ever made. It basically explains everything I've talked about today. Just from their perspective. It's a flex. It's a movie they made as a brag in 1997 or something like that. 96, 97, 98, something like that. But it's a flex, and I highly encourage you to all go watch it. It says everything I'm saying just from a different perspective. There's also going to be 3 links to the music videos for Donald Trump Hates America, COVID Sauce, and Sleight of Hand Job. Videos on Facebook, go check them out, go share them with people. Like, share, and sub here. Like, share, and sub there. Have a great day, and most importantly, pedophiles, do one good thing in your life and kill yourself.